This is Brown right here. Stops, scoops it up and in. Wow! Oh, my God!
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Motion and a fake, and he's hit as he throws, and it's intercepted. Jaron McVay had it fall right in his hands. It was Braden Nunley who delivered the hit on Sanders, who's thrown his third pick of the day.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Blitz coming. Pitched up. Prescott unloading. End zone. Touchdown.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Flagler off the window. The tip. Oh, my goodness.
Now, here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. The Sikkim 365 Radio. Online, the app, also Sikkim 365 Radio. We're on YouTube, 365 Sports. Scotty B, Daniel, and Chris have already jumped on with us early as we start this show and take you until 6 o'clock Central Time. Tomorrow we're in Fort Worth, and we got a little graphic, and I honestly don't know if Jack did this or somebody on the site did this. We'll put that up in a moment. We'll also hear from Scott Drew, Adam Flagler, Flo Thamba from today's media session where teams were available, Marquette, North Carolina, Norfolk State, and also with Baylor about the games coming up that start tomorrow. Baylor at 1 against Norfolk State, 1 seed against a 16 seed matchup. There is some news. We'll have Pat Nunley, Baylor radio analyst for basketball. Also Tim Brando, Fox Sports. Paul Mills, former Baylor assistant at Oral Roberts, will help us break down the tournament. Kendall Kaut, he'll help us break down the tournament as well. He wrote an unbelievably great article today in the premium section about comparing history in certain ways to how people have projected things. And then also today, I had a conversation one-on-one with Baylor women's basketball coach Nikki Collen that's pretty lengthy. We'll do that today at 5 o'clock. Paul is out today. Craig Smoak to my right. And Craig, we had the first play-in games last night. A couple of more, of course, going on tonight. In fact, Wright State is one of them against Bryant. And then Notre Dame against Rutgers in a battle of 11 seeds. The winner of Bryant-Wright State will get Arizona. Notre Dame-Rutgers winner will play Alabama. Those are the two games after Texas Southern and also Indiana advanced in the first four in last night.
Yeah, it was nice to see the tournament get started off. Good for Texas Southern. I mean, there was going to be a Texas team advancing either way, considering they were playing A&M Corpus Christi. But nice for Texas Southern to go ahead and have an opportunity here in the next round. And Indiana beating Wyoming. Hoosiers advanced as well, and it was just good to see some basketball on TV and kind of get these, the way that they've kind of belittled the first four games in some ways almost makes it it doesn't feel like it's part of the tournament to me. It just felt like games to get into the tournament last night, so I didn't even embrace it like it was March Madness really, because all those teams look like to me are cannon fodder for the number one seed they're going to play, and, they were right there on the edge. So I'm sure a lot of people got, into last night's games, but it still doesn't feel like the tournament's quite started just yet.
No, it's not. I think it always, no matter how many play-in games or first 4, first 3, first 9, whatever it ends up being over the years, it's that game tomorrow, right before noon. Usually here it's 11:37 or so Central Time. That's, to me, when the tournament begins, with all due respect to the 8 teams that are playing for last night, for today, and they move on as well. So we'll break it down with Pat Nunley, Tim Brando, Paul Mills, and also Kendall Kaut, and also with you, with your chat room and text line. Text line is 254-339-1122, and the chat room is already hot and bothered and going with the early on. In fact, West Virginia's women's basketball coach, Mike Carey, resigned today. He will move on. And he's been a staple of the Big 12 since they joined it a long time ago. They were 15-15 this year, and they used to be a team. In fact, until Texas beat Baylor Sunday, the last team that had beaten Baylor, and I think it might have been 17 or 18, West Virginia beat Baylor up in Oklahoma City to win the Big 12 Women's Conference Tournament. They had a really good team and beat Baylor that year, and that's kind of what I remember about West Virginia.
I know that we've got some West Virginia listeners. Are you more ready than ever for this year to be over with?
Oh, yeah, many ways.
Geez Louise. Football, pretty middle of the road, maybe even off the road a little bit, depending on who you talk to. Neil Brown talk about his job security, watching Jarrett Dagey every week in frustration, and, not really a whole lot to really be amped up about heading. Like if they had like a strong ending and you had a bunch of young guys, you'd get all excited about this upcoming year and be like, all right, it's the year for Neil Brown to take off. But then they had like 20 guys enter the transfer portal, and then men's basketball kind of middle of the, lower in the Big 12. Yeah. And Bob Huggins, is entertaining and everything, but that's not where you want to be. And then having to make a change at women's basketball head coach, it's been tough for West Virginia in the Big 3 sports.
Armstrong, do we have those comments available now from earlier today? We'll get to that in a minute. Also, we'll have a few notes in the NFL, Major League Baseball nuggets as well. So we will take you until 6, and we'll have the chat room, and we'll mention all of what you want to bring up today on the chat room as well. So Adam Flagler, who is obviously there's not much because of their depth and attrition. And Scott Drew, by the way, said today in his media session that L.J. Cryer was not available for the weekend. And that touched off a thread in the premium section that went 9 different directions about what's happening. And, Scott Drew continues to say that he has been cleared by doctors and it's a pain threshold. Well, that had a lot of different speculation about what that meant. And it's a really good thread. It's pretty deep, and it's in the premium section on L.J. Cryer, but he will not be available this week. And I saw where Jeff Goodman's daughter, Talia, said breaking news on him. And to me, the breaking news is not that he won't play. The breaking news is if they would have said he did and will play, to me, because based on what we've seen for most of the year. So here's Adam Flagler. Baylor, Mike Carey retired, not resigned. Baylor gets the reset, the loss to Oklahoma Thursday in the quarterfinal round of the Big 12 tournament. There's all sorts of debate of whether it helped them get an extra day or two of practice. I would think not really. Again, that's just to me a kind of a cop-out. I'm not saying the players said that or Scott Drew, but they have had a few days. Do they have enough time? And did they get a chance to kind of reset for the game and the start of the NCAA tournament?
How's the break been since the Big 12 tournament? And what do you guys feel like y'all need to do right now, just as far as team-wise?
The break's been really good. Just really focusing on attention to detail. We are a really good defensive team, but the past 2 games with Iowa State as well as Oklahoma, we've been kind of lax. So just kind of pinpointing on that, focusing on that, and just having each other's back and being connected out there. That's what we've been working on. So we're going to be excited to go out there and show that we are still one of the best teams in the country. So
Baylor's kind of had 3 different seasons, really. And you had the 15-0 start, and then, of course, attrition started to get to them. And then they got beat up by Kansas lost the first game, was home against Tech, and then Oklahoma State. Then Alabama got them. So and then they kind of got themselves back on track to get up to number 3 in the country and have a chance and to win a share of the Big 12 title by wins against Kansas and Texas. So and they've been doing a lot of this without Flo, without Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua, who went out during the Texas game a long time ago, it seems. So Flo Thamba had that unbelievable game against Kansas, and he was asked about his role and who he has become and what he needs to do now that Jonathan, of course, has been out and going forward.
I know, Flo, that you've been asked about the increase in your time on the floor with the injury to Jonathan, but just how have you had to pace yourself pretty much since that first Texas game to where you are now so you can be as productive as possible?
I mean, for me, there's no pressure at all. I mean, my teammates and my coaches give me the utmost confidence, and they basically just say, Flo, take your time with it. And what helps me the most is, like, they don't just always throw me in, like, crazy situations, but just while practicing, having my teammates, help me in certain situations and stuff, it just, keeps me afloat.
He was big against Kansas and maybe played the best game of his life, of course, against Gonzaga for the national championship. Immediately you could see the difference with that, and that's who they are, right, Craig? They don't have Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua. That's now been quite some time. And then on top of that, they don't have L.J. Cryer. That has been some time. And then they've still had to nurse a little bit along with Adam Flagler and his knee, and to kind of make sure that isn't pushed too far. And then on top of that, there's other things that go wrong and other guys that have bumps and bruises as well. But I think Flo Thamba has played, considering what I thought he was as a player, has become and can help them on offense, not day in and day out, game in and game out, but he has risen to the occasion with some more points that we are usually not seeing or haven't seen.
Yeah, I mean, he's answered the call as well as anybody could have expected. There's still some things frustrating about his offensive game, obviously, but that's not what he's, built for. That's not what he's there for. So given that that's not really what he's, supposed to be, what they are getting, is encouraging, and it's better than expected. But, the whole injury thing, like, it's so what? Like, at this point, it's March Madness. Like, we've been talking about their injuries for 3 months now, and I get it. I get that they played a factor in, the regular season, and I get that they played a factor perhaps to some extent in the Big 12 tournament. I mean, I'll say it, and this isn't some homer thing. If they had the team that started off 15-0 fully healthy, they probably win the Big 12 outright, or at least they have some classic battle against Kansas, to top it off. But that's not been the case. That's not their story this year. Their story is not that they have been the 15-0 team all year with all of those pieces in place. They are a team that pretty much half the entire year has been missing at least one or more big pieces, and they're still missing. And they're going to continue to miss at least one or more big pieces because Tchamwa-Tchatchoua is not coming back. No. So, then Flagler, that gives you at least two, and then, Cryer. It's frustrating, but you know what? I don't want to hear about it anymore, really, because now it's March, and now it's winter go home. So, it factors in, but I think there's, amongst the 60-plus other teams that are in this tournament, I'm sure there's some teams that have injuries or have had injuries that have derailed them, and if it wasn't for those injuries, they'd be a better seed. Fact of the matter is, Baylor, with all of their injuries that we've spent so much time talking about, is still a number one seed. So, you're a number one seed. Go out there, defend your national championship, and if you don't have all your pieces, well, that's just the breaks.
That's who you are. You have to be who you are. Texas Tech had theirs with both Shannon and McCullough and McCullough again. And then Houston, of course, lost Marcus Sasser and others. And look where they are. They battled back to win their conference and then also the tournament as well. Flo Thamba, this year, if you look at throughout this year, early on against Arizona State, he scored 11, 16 against Alcorn State. And then in the Texas game, when Jonathan Tchamwa-Tchatchoua went down, he finished with 12. Then he had 7, 10, 8, 18 against Kansas. And that was the one that was, what in the world? 12 against Texas, Iowa State 7. In the tournament game, the loss to OU, he had 10. And they need him to be that because the outside shooting has been the percentage has not been that good. Speaking of that, of course, Adam Flagler was a major part, as was Flo, a major part of what they did a year ago with the national championship run and eventual title game route of Gonzaga. Scott Drew earlier today in the media session up in Fort Worth, asked about the Adam Flagler and leadership.
Yeah, Adam's one of those guys that when he's done playing basketball, he wants to be a pediatrician, and then normally you don't want to be a pediatrician unless you really care for other people. So anytime you have an experienced player, a leader that cares that much about his teammates, you know they're going to make a great leader. And we have the ultimate faith in Adam, and know that he always has the team's best interest at heart. And so it's easy to hear and listen to the advice he gives other players and the thoughts he has for us as a staff. And he's somebody that has battled injuries as well. And I know LJ Cryer will not be available this weekend, so it's more even more onus on him and James and Dale to make sure that they're at their best.
All right, that's Scott. That's Scott Drew earlier today in Fort Worth at the media session. We'll be there tomorrow. Armstrong, do you have the graphic that was on SicEm365.com? I don't know if Jack did this because I haven't seen him. SicEm365 Radio live, Railhead Smokehouse Barbecue on Montgomery Street in Fort Worth. Tomorrow we'll be there 3 to 6, which is right after the game with Baylor and Norfolk State. That's tips at 1. And so that is tomorrow. Thanks to Charlie Guerin. I talked to Charlie today, and Gilbert's going to be is going to be our go-to guy there tomorrow. We hope you can come by after the game, or if you don't have a ticket and want to watch it there with us, we'll be there. We'll be at the game and then come back and eventually do our show. Looking forward to it from 3 to 6. Thanks to Charlie Guerin. He won't be there tomorrow, but if, in fact, Baylor moves on as they're supposed to against a 16 seed on Saturday, Charlie said he would definitely be there with us, and we will wait and to see the tip time with Baylor if they advance and whoever else, North Carolina or Marquette, to decide what time we'll be on the air with a pregame and or postgame show as well. Also, Nalissa Smith, yet another All-American, first-team All-American by the Associated Press, in the same names you've seen before: Aaliyah Boston from South Carolina, Caitlin Clark, Iowa, Naz Hillman from Michigan, Haley Jones, Stanford, Ryan Howard of Kentucky, and Nalissa Smith, all first-team All-Americans. She has been consensus across the board with that. I mentioned Mike Carey retired today as the head coach of women's basketball at West Virginia. Now, 254-339-1122, that's the number to call, 254-339-1122. Mike gave a great point about how we're almost to the point we're numb to discussing injuries as if Baylor's the only team. No, they're not. There are dozens of teams still alive that have had problems with injuries, and they had Remy Martin, who was the player of the year in the preseason. Big 12 player of the year. They played a lot without him. He played really well in their win against Texas Tech, but they did it. They went through it. It wasn't easy, but they found a way to get that done.
I just don't want to get into this tournament and then they lose in the second round or something like that, and then we just talk about, well, yeah, if they would have had, it's enough. It is what it is.
It's a cop-out now.
Now, yeah.
Even if it's reality, it's a cop-out.
At this point, you've been playing with the team that you're taking into this tournament, minus JTT for the last couple weeks. You've been playing with this team, scratches and bruises and bumps and aches and everything that's, probably taking one guy up and one guy down at various times. But for the most part, the unit that you're taking to this tournament is the group that you've been playing with now for several weeks, is it not?
Yep.
So, I don't want no chemistry issues are going to be, used as an excuse, I would hope. And, none of that. And, if they get beat and it's because they don't have another big available, then they get beat because they don't have another big available. There's a bunch of really good teams that didn't win national titles because their star player got hurt or somebody got hurt. And that's just the reality of sports. So, yeah, that's unfortunate if that's going to be something that, Baylor basketball fans have to look at. But maybe not. I mean, they're still very good. They're still a very good team, and let's see what they do in the tournament. But, yeah, I don't want to, pad the expectations and safeguard it and wrap it in bubble wrap with injuries and use that as some and I'm not talking to you, I'm just saying in general, it is what it is, and now it's time for them, as healthy as they can be, go play.
If you can beat Kansas without him, with those injuries, and then go to Texas and beat them to close out the Frank Irwin Center, along with everything else, again, that to me is almost setting yourself up. If you are in that group, setting yourself up for if they don't reach whatever goals you have. To me, this is a Sweet 16 team or bust. If they get beat, somebody beat them. It's going to be Marquette or North Carolina. If, in fact, that's who they play, they have to still take care of business. I'll tell you right now, they should win easily against Norfolk State. They should. But guess what? I want to see a team that goes out there and just, takes the game over immediately. Just controls the game.
Oh, this first game, for sure. Yeah, they don't need to be struggling along. And if it was Norfolk State or if it was name any other school, basically that would be a 16 seed. I'd say the same thing. And especially given what we've talked about so much. Yeah, they really can ill afford in a tournament scenario to have a grinded out game in game number 1. That would just set them on the wrong path to begin with. Luckily you're not playing the entire 64 all the way down to 2 all in consecutive days, because they would really be in bad shape if that was the case. But play these first 2 games, try to get past them, get in the Sweet 16, catch your breath, get healthy for a few days, and then get right back to it. But there's plenty of guys on this team that have been on the grind. They were on that grind last year and they know what it's like. It's going to be different because it's not a bubble, but these guys it's a good basketball team, and they're good. They're great when they're fully healthy, but that version we haven't seen in 2 months, and we're not going to see it again. So I still have the utmost confidence in this current lineup that they have available to go and, get to the Sweet 16, and then beyond that, let's party and see how far they can go. They've got talent. It's not like they're, missing one person and they're just, incapable of being, an Elite 8 type team. They've still got the opportunity to do that, no doubt.
I tell you what, if they don't play better than they did against Oklahoma, who's pretty good, they won't be around very long. But that's the case with anybody, no matter what seed. By the way, Chris asked the question, who do you feel like has a better chance to go and win a national championship, the men or women? Women. Yeah. It is. I'm not being disrespectful. It's an easier road, although it is. There's 6 to 8 teams in women's basketball that can win the national title. By the way, there may only be 6 or 8 teams that can win the national title in men's basketball. The problem is there are landmines everywhere, from top to bottom in the men's tournament. Women getting a little bit more like that, but still a long way from the overall depth of the tournament compared to what you have when you face the men. And so I would say the women have a better chance to win it all, and that wouldn't be breaking news.
There might be as many there's as many tough teams in Baylor's men's region as there are maybe in the entire women's tournament. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. It's just, we're just talking about North Carolina and Marquette and St. Mary's and Purdue, just name the teams that are, who is the number 2? So Kentucky. Kentucky is who I was thinking of. That's Louisville, Baylor, UConn, and name a couple, Texas, name a couple of other schools, and that's basically the women's favorites. So
Stanford, South Carolina,
there's like 7 or 8 of them, and there's like probably 5 or 6 oh gosh, Baylor could slip up and lose to this team just in their own region. So I think there's a massive difference in just the level and the amount of stiff competition in the men's game versus the women. So I would say the women as well, but they got to play a lot better than they did against Texas. And
we have Nikki Collen at 5 today in an interview from earlier today on many things, the program, and how they move forward from the loss on Sunday to Texas.
And I'll say, just like with the men and the injuries, I think for the women, at some point they've got to get over the transition and just move on and not be looking back any longer. And I don't think that they've looked back that often, but you have heard many media sessions where you do harken back to the expectations and what she walked into, and Kim Mulkey and the lure that, remains there. And the fact that Kim's not like some retired coach, she's still doing her thing at LSU. And I guarantee there's some fan out there in Waco, Texas, who's going to be comparing their runs the rest of this tournament.
Yeah, they've been comparing them since they started.
Yeah, I've ignored it, but so not surprising. But I think the women, had a tough loss, but all right, tie your shoes on tight and put your big boy pants on and go out there and at least, get a couple games deep into this thing. That's the expectation for sure.
And also the women play their first 2 games at home. The men don't. They're on the road in Fort Worth. This is from Dylan. My brackets are definitely going to get busted. I have only the Big 12 losing to only the Big 12. Hey, I love your passion for the conference. That would be interesting. There are teams, a 1-seed Kansas, a 1-seed Baylor, a 3-seed Tech. Texas is a 6-seed, and then Iowa State and TCU are one or the other is an 8-seed and a 9-seed as well.
I could see some Big 12 teams knocking each other off. I don't know off the top of my head just how that would all happen, like in what rounds they'd face and whatnot.
That means
they're deep.
That means you're playing
that'd be
Sweet 16, Elite 8. Yeah.
That'd be a pretty good thing, just so long as whoever's the one that's ultimately beating everybody else is the one that's standing tall over every single team by the end of it. That would be more than acceptable. It'd be disappointing to knock each other all out and then fall short of winning a title. But, those would be deeper games.
From Lee, I've said it before, already a successful season for Baylor men, conference champions, and a 1 seed. If we can make it to the second weekend, I'm happy, proud of the season, even if we don't. And then Chris on the story for tomorrow, our Railhead Smokehouse Barbecue. Texas barbecue is amazing. I have to wait till I drive to see my in-laws in San Antonio before I get any. Of course, there's many places to go along the way. And then also from Biscuits and Gravy, according to Kansas Press, Remy has been available and Self chose not to play since he didn't trust him. Oh, you Bill Snell. Yeah, I'm telling you, there was a lot of chatter after the Kansas game and the loss in Waco that a lot of people were very upset the way Remy was being taken advantage of in many, many ways. And maybe he just needed to get kind of adapted to what they were doing. In fact, Mike does say that. He's a huge Kansas fan. I thought the team had adapted without Remy. I almost didn't want him back, but glad he's now back. And especially, Mike and KU fans know if he plays like he did Saturday against West Virginia.
I was thinking, a few months ago when everybody, Remy Martin wasn't playing and everybody kept talking about Remy Martin, and then they went on and started to play really well, and then, here he comes back and what have you, questions about Remy Martin again. So, I can definitely see the Kansas perspective of, like, it's almost a good and a bad thing that, he eventually, they eventually found that groove. But, Kansas is going to be fun to watch.
When we come back, he gets to see him a lot, does their games. Pat Nunley, former Baylor guard. Pat Nunley will join us to discuss Baylor and Norfolk State in that game tomorrow that tips off at 1 o'clock. And we can't wait. If you have a chance, if you go to the game and you do drop by, we're only about 0.8 of a mile from Dickey's Arena tomorrow at Railhouse Smokehouse Barbecue. We'll be there from 3 until 6. Enjoy it and then come back on Saturday, we hope, if things go according to plan, to do the games and also the show as well. Armstrong Sims running the mothership today. Paul's out today, and we'll all hopefully be together tomorrow in Fort Worth. Craig Smoak, David Smoak, Sikkim, 365 Radio, and 365 Sports.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night. At Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
So again, tonight there's a couple of games. There is the Bryant versus Wright State game in Dayton, and I believe it was Stephen Shook who sent me a text. Stephen said that Wright State might be 15 minutes from Dayton, Ohio. That one tips at 5:40 Central, and then Notre Dame Rutgers. Wright State Bryant winner will get Arizona, and Notre Dame Rutgers, the winner, 2-11 seeds, will get Alabama. So we're now joined by Pat Nunley, broadcast analyst for Baylor Radio, Baylor men's basketball, former Baylor guard on Sikkim 365 Radio with David Smoak and also Craig Smoak. Pat, thank you very much for your time. It's not there's no surprise. LJ is not playing, and is it almost to a point where the surprise would be if he did?
Yes, absolutely. And I think they've been counting on him not playing for a while. And if he's a no-go in the tournament, that just confirms what they've been thinking. And really, David, this is their team. I mean, they reconfigured the team. You and I've talked about that. This is the team they're going with. And this is a team that won, I believe it was 5 of 6 to finish Big 12 play. They won key games, big games down the stretch to give themselves a share of the Big 12 championship. And so this is what they're going with, and it's a good roster.
Pat, since the loss of JTT, we were just talking about this a little while ago. What have you seen as far as the growth of Flo Thamba, especially offensively?
Yeah, it's just off the charts. And really, he's played better than I think he's ever played as a Baylor Bear. You know, since he's gone out, he's averaging 10.5 points a game. He's averaging 8.1 rebounds per game, almost a block and a half a game, and he's playing 29 minutes per game. So he, in my mind, he has been the key because that was a big unknown. When JTT goes out, that is a big hole to fill. And I mentioned before, those two guys were playing that position by committee, and Flo had to carry the weight, and he's done it incredibly well. He has been outstanding, and I think he's a key cog in the wheel, getting us where we are now, and then moving forward, he's going to play a big role.
Pat, I had this comment to myself, and I might have texted Paul, who was at the game against Kansas when Flo had 18 and was unbelievable inside with his pick and roll and also hitting even some of the smaller jumpers. But I never thought he was when he got like a third foul, I said, I never thought of what you might miss offensively if Flo Thamba got in foul trouble. But they now would miss him somewhat offensively, too.
Yeah, that's a strange thought, but it is the truth. And I think, and this applies to a couple of different players as well, really all of them, because we just can't get into foul trouble. I think the more fouls Flo gets, the smarter he becomes, because he's figured out a way to play effectively when he's got 3 fouls or when he's got 4 fouls. And so he's been very effective at staying in games when we've absolutely had to have him, but he just cannot afford any more fouls. And that might be the most impressive thing about what he's been able to do, because 29 minutes a game is a lot more than he ever expected to play. Got to play more minutes, and he has to be dominant the way he has been. And to do that, he's in the fray. I mean, that guy has more offensive rebounds than he does defensive rebounds. And to be able to do that, you've got to go get the ball, and you've got to get in the fray, and you've got to be physical. You got to throw guys around. So his ability to avoid fouling out has been really impressive.
Pat, yesterday, Smokey asked the question to me and Paul about, what player on this team needs to step up the most, and not step up of like they haven't been playing well, but just in terms of need to probably do a bit more, maybe have a bit more of a scoring explosion. And both Paul and I pretty quickly said Matthew Meyer. Who would you say?
That's a really good question. And now that you say that, Craig, I think probably Meyer would get my vote. But my short answer to that question would be all of them, because we just don't have room for error. We don't. If Adam Flagler goes 1 for 11 like he did against Oklahoma, and that happens. It just happens to the very best shooters. And he was statistically the best three-point shooter in the league. If he goes 1 for 11 in any of the upcoming, hopefully 6 games, we're going to really struggle. So I think each one of them has to bring to the table what they have brought to the table over the last month. But if I had to pick a guy, it would be Meyer. Meyer has been great in the NCAA tournament. A year ago, second-round game against Wisconsin, he scored 17 in that game off the bench in about 20 minutes, and I don't know that we win that game without Matt Meyer. So this is not unfamiliar to him. I think he's up for the challenge. I think he likes this tournament. I don't know that he really has to shoot the ball well, because he hasn't shot the ball well. We've played well in spite of that. The other things that he does, and a lot of those things that he's doing that don't show up in the box score, are the kind of things that Matt Meyer has to continue to bring. He's become a really good defender. He's incredibly active. He's very athletic. He's 6'9", got a long wingspan. He does a lot. He gets deflections. He takes charges. A lot of those things that are disruptive. So without scoring, he's got to continue to do that, and I think he will.
Pat, how much would you is he someone we know he can shoot, and again, as you mentioned, he hasn't been shooting at a great percentage, but he has a few putbacks, which are because of his size, and they need more of him. Would you like to see him maybe continue drives more often and keep getting bumped and maybe trying to draw a foul?
Absolutely. I heard somebody say this, some commentator watching a game, I guess it was last week, and this guy was talking about me shots versus we shots. And I thought that was really astute, and I think that applies to Matt. Don't take me shots, take we shots. Shots early in a possession when we really haven't explored things in our offensive sets are the kind of shots that I think Matt has an inclination to take, because he's a big game kind of guy. If he makes one of those threes, and he's made more than his fair share, it tends to really ignite the team and at home ignite a crowd. He's got to continue to get the ball in the lane, because when he's there, he is a handful. He really is. Now, he's not a great free throw shooter, but he's the kind of guy that could get on a roll and make some. That, I think, is the key. He's great on the offensive glass. So less me shots, more we shots. And the we shots are those that happen when he gets the ball into the lane and dishes or scores at the rim.
Pat, what are your thoughts on what you have seen? Not sure what you have checked out yet on Norfolk State.
Well, it's interesting. As I've looked at them, Craig, you guys might remember in 2012, they got into the tournament as a 15 seed. They beat the number 2 seed, Missouri. And that was a huge upset. That really was a game changer for that program. And listening to their coach talk, he said last year they got into the NCAA tournament, played Gonzaga, and just were run out of the gym. And he felt like they needed to get more physical. They needed to get bigger and stronger and more athletic. So he's tried to build that team around that goal. and he's done it. They've got a really nice player named Chris Bankston. He's a transfer from Little Rock, 6'8", 230. He's their leading rebounder, and he's a big dude, and he can play. He's an athlete. So they don't want – well, I'll put it this way. He didn't feel like they were NCAA tournament ready a year ago, and everything they've done this year has been built to get ready to play a game like they're going to play tomorrow. He said, coming in, they're going to be a 16, 15, or best case 14 seed, and they're going to get the best that the tournament has to offer right off the bat, and they just have to be ready for that. But they're talented. They're balanced. They've got a guard, the player of the year in the MEAC, Joe Bryant, 6'1", 17 points, 5 rebounds. This guy has made, this is interesting, 127 of the 138 free throw attempts he's taken this year. He's a 92% free throw shooter, and he gets there a lot. So they've got a nice team. They're well balanced. He feels like they're built better for this tournament and for Baylor than they were previously last year. It's their second year in the NCAA tournament, and this is what they play for. You win your tournament, you go to the NCAA tournament. They won their conference tournament second year in a row to do that, and they're in. So this is the big dance for these guys.
Yeah, and Bryant's a thick kid, too. I mean, he looks like he can handle the bumps and grind and all that if it gets physical and along with what you said inside. So it ought to be fun. How much does it help anytime? I know the women get to play home and home for the first weekend among other schools around the country for helping with attendance and whatever else and even budget. How much does it help to be only 80, 90 miles away?
I think it's huge. I really do, because our crowds have been off the charts good, really, this year. You think of the Kansas game, the Iowa State game, others that we had to win. We really could increase our chances by having a strong, vocal, active home crowd. I think we're going to get that in Fort Worth. Now, tomorrow's a 1 o'clock start, so I don't know how many people are going to be able to get there. But Dallas and Fort Worth is a hotbed for Baylor alums, and I think they're coming. I hope they get there tomorrow. Baylor can advance and play Saturday. You're going to see a lot of green and gold in the stands. You remember the Baylor Duke game?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but that was 70,000 people, and I think 40,000 of those were probably Baylor fans in Houston that year. It makes a huge difference. So, and actually, that's what they've been playing for. I think they've been more concerned about getting to Fort Worth than they have about the 1-2 seed thing. Now, 1 seed gets them to Fort Worth, and it all worked out really well. But they had Fort Worth circled on their brackets, and this is where they want to be.
Pat, we were talking to Mac Rhodes yesterday, and Paul asked him about the bubble setup from last year and whether or not he would be interested in sort of a hybrid concept where you have, the still scattered locations in the first couple of rounds, but then you go to more of not a bubble, but everybody's kind of in that same location for the Sweet 16 and beyond. And Mac said he'd be open to thinking about the idea. He wouldn't sign off on it like immediately, but one thing that he does like about it is just the camaraderie that was built during that bubble time last year, interacting with all the various coaches and players from other teams around the country. Just what are your thoughts on that concept?
Yeah, I thought last year was pretty interesting. It was weird because we had less camaraderie than more. I mean, me and J-Mo, for that matter. But I just thought it was strange. There were some benefits to it. Everybody was right there. You knew where you were going the next weekend, and that was kind of nice. But maybe I'm just a purist. I like the way the tournament's set up now. Mm-hmm. It is, as it stands now, it is a national event.
Right.
It is, in my mind, it's as big as the Super Bowl. I really think. I saw something the other day that said 85% of the NCAA's budget is made off of this tournament. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So I like the way it is now. It's a national spectacle. Everybody across the country is doing brackets, and I think it's cool. I also think that 1 seed, 2 seeds, but primarily 1, because that's where we are this year, get the benefit of having earned a 1 seed for us playing in Fort Worth. Now, I don't know how much of that goes into the committee's decision making, but I like the fact that we were rewarded with a 1 seed, which has us playing 90 miles up the road.
Pat, one more thing on the crowd. With Baylor being right here, Fort Worth being 90 miles away, and Baylor have a huge alumni group in the Dallas and Fort Worth area. You also have, even though there's a couple of different sessions, North Carolina, Kansas. Mm-hmm. We know Marquette has their great history as well. Does that's pretty? It's like the blue blood division.
Kentucky.
Oh my God! How do I forget Kentucky? For God's sakes! But as far as in Fort Worth, to have North Carolina and Kansas, that's got to be huge.
It is huge. It's the who's who of college basketball. When you think about it, it's Kentucky, UCLA. Those two teams have more national titles than any other team playing in the tournament. In North Carolina, you mentioned them. Indiana. You've got other teams in there that year in, year out are great. So it's a great weekend for college basketball to come see some of the best. And by the way, I think, and this is probably by design, I think the East Regional is the hardest one to predict. And it should be that way. I mean, the fourth number 1 seed ought to have to play the best 2 seed or be in the same bracket as the best 2 seed and on and on. So it's been set up that way, and I love it. But I think Baylor can get out of it. Well, of course they can. They've got some work to do. You know, Kentucky, despite having lost last week, is playing really well. North Carolina has been one of the best teams in the country for about a month or so. So, again, and everybody has stubbed their toe, and I think that's just the way college basketball is this year. But it's a great regional, and we're going to see some great basketball beginning tomorrow.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it. We'll see you in Fort Worth. Pat Nunley, color analyst, Baylor men's basketball, former Baylor guard with us, and it's great to have him on and his ability to dissect things and his opinion on various parts of also what's going on as well. 3:45 is the time. Couple of notes. It was a really horrible story that came down earlier today about a golf team on their way back to campus after a tournament. We'll have that. It's praying for that school. We'll have that for you if you did not hear about it. We'll get to the chat room back and forth with Johnny and Scotty B and Biscuits and Gravy and Paula and Verlin, among some others as well, Mike, etc. We'll have some of what you have on there, and there's a chat room or text line or two, 254-339-1122. That's the number, and Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name Barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Got some news if you're a Baylor fan here momentarily. It really is a commemorating last year's national championship, and I'll have that for you in a minute. Colt put it up on the board. But I had received an email from this company about a week ago, and today they released it, and I'll have that for you. It's a collector's item. But the horrible news, 9 people died in a fiery head-on collision in West Texas, including in the 9, 6 students and a coach from a New Mexico university, University of Southwest. They were traveling about 30 miles east of the New Mexico state line, crashed into a van, pickup truck crossed the center line. 2 people in the pickup truck also killed, crashed into the van carrying members of the University of Southwest men's and women's golf teams. And obviously a brutal, horrific scene. The National Transportation Safety Board is in, and they will try to piece all of this together. The teens had been scheduled to play at Midland College, which of course is 300 miles west of Dallas, and that's what they were supposed to do, and of course that was canceled.
Yeah, that's an absolutely horrific story. Saw some tweets late last night about it, and they didn't release any details at that time other than it was bad, and there were some fatalities, and the Southwest golf team had been involved in a crash, and that's all they would really say. But it was very ominous, and still to hear, 7 people when all was said and done that passed away, and I'm sure many more hurt. That's horrific. And apparently the coach was driving the bus, and they said they don't know why the pickup swerved into their lane. So I'm sure that will be determined. Drunk driving, medical issue, grabbing your cell phone, whatever. People are driving worse these days than ever before. It seems like, and not. That's just a general observation, but to this story in particular, just awful. And I just give my most positive thoughts and energy and prayers or whatever they want to take, whatever I can give, they have as far as just mental goodwill, because I'm sure it's just a really sad day around those parts and will be for some time to come.
All right. We also have this. This was something that was sent to me by the National Bobblehead Hall of Fame Museum. So Baylor, of course, winning the national championship April 5th of last year. And you can go online and Google National Bobblehead Hall of Fame. If you are a Sikkim 365 premium member, there's a thread Colt Barber put up that has a link, and a lot of you have already purchased. There's 2 different, there's the bobblehead there. Bruiser. And there's climbing the ladder to cut the net, and then, of course, the newspaper champions, whatever. And isn't there another one, Armstrong, as well, or is it the same one? Yeah, that's the same one, the climbing the ladder to get the net. So those are available. Go online. You can go and just Google National Bobblehead Hall of Fame, and they have a link out, and there's a story behind all that, and so that's great. So that's there. And again, if you're a Sikkim 365 member, there is a thread that Colt put up in the premium section for you to get the bobbleheads if you are interested.
Did you ever have fancy bobbleheads like that growing up? With a mascot climbing a ladder, waving a net?
No, usually the bobbleheads, even probably not too far back, is that the bobblehead was standard and the head bobbled. Yeah. There was no fancy. There was not
tricked
much.
Out.
In fact, we used to get things when we had the Rangers games. We'd get a lot of things from the Rangers. They were amazing. You've given me some bobbleheads over the years as well. I like them. They're pretty cool. They're a little bit unique. I like that as well.
By the way, if you're interested in about 100 Rangers bobbleheads from like 2015 to like 2017, I got a lot.
You still have them?
Yeah. I mean, because for people that don't know, we're at the old place that we worked, there's a Rangers affiliate. So if you're an affiliate, what people might not know is, at least in the Rangers case, I don't know about other teams, but they're
really good, the Rangers.
The Rangers are like overly good. They send you every 5 to 6 weeks just a massive shipment of every bobblehead they give away at their games.
Or even T-shirts and caps.
T-shirt, like whatever their giveaways are, bobbleheads or T-shirts or whatever. They send like that lot of, merchandise to their affiliates to give away, like remotes and things like that. So if we had some of that, we'd be giving it away tomorrow at the show in Fort Worth, for example. But yeah, there's always, overkill as far as the number. And so we ended up with a bunch of them that were just left over. And I've got probably like 50 bobbleheads from the Rangers. And like none of those guys are even on the team, I think, at this point. I think all of them are gone, but like there was a bunch. And
sometimes they would give you Adrian Beltre.
Oh, I got
he was
bunch
active.
of Beltres.
Juan Gonzalez, Pudge Rodriguez. There were some big names.
Part of the
reason
reason
them.
was that they sucked the last couple of years. And so there wasn't a whole lot of, to choose from as far as their great players. So you'd get the occasional Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, but you get a bunch of Joey Gallows, which they can't even do that anymore. But beyond that, you really didn't have too many guys. So they did, a lot of Nolan and Beltre and, throwback Rusty Greers and things like that. But, that was kind of cool that they did that. They were very gracious. I will say that, the Rangers organization. They were very gracious with those. But, yeah, if you're a Rangers bobblehead collector, hit me up.
We will have at 4 o'clock Tim Brando from Fox Sports. He's going to be with us for a pretty nice chunk. Paul Mills, Oral Roberts, head basketball coach, used to be on the Baylor staff, will join us at 4:30. And then Nikki Collen, one-on-one on many things throughout the last few weeks, months, and also going forward as they host the NCAA tournament in Waco Friday and Sunday. A couple of the chat room. Biscuits and gravy. No, Sweet 16 is a bust. Disagree. I'm thrilled with what season has been produced and happy with anything else it gives. But saying it's a bust is sneaky. So I'm not going to mention the other name. Don't ever compare me, Biscuits and Gravy, to some guy that said that Scott Drew should be fired. I'm just saying, with where they are, who they are, what they've been, to me, get through the first weekend. And guess what? You're in the Sweet 16. You're in Fort Worth. You're playing 80 miles away. You're ranked as a number 1 seed. Play how you played against Kansas and Texas, and you'll be in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, unless I'm misunderstanding there, I think it's very fair to say it's Sweet 16 or bust. You're the defending national champions. You've still got a very good team, and like you said, you're a number 1 seed. So I think if you were to take away and say Gonzaga, is it Sweet 16 or bust for them? I would think so. As a number,
I think it's Final Four bust for them.
Well, for them, it's even more so, because of last year. But, I mean, that's some of the room that Baylor gave themselves is, they don't have that pressure of having not won it. So I do think you can be a little bit more liberal with your expectations and what you think. So, for Gonzaga, they probably need to get to the Final Four. But for Baylor, Sweet 16, I don't think that's in any way unfair. That should be the bare minimum,
Also from Mike, we appreciate this. Mike and Rich and a couple of you talking about this show. Yes, Baylor-centric. It's Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. But we have branched out quite a bit and we already had done that, but when the Oklahoma and Texas SEC story popped in late July, we not only became much more Big 12-centric, but also the Brigham Young, UCF, Houston, Cincinnati. And a lot of times when we mention teams in the tournament, we won't mention just the 6 teams in the Big 12, but even teams that might be a part of the Big 12 even after a few more years. Mentioned Boise State as in the tournament, or others as well in the tournament. And I had the question again about this, is that all of any talk about anything else after 2023 or whenever Houston, Cincinnati, and UCF join the Big 12, and Brigham Young will be the summer of 2023, no matter what Texas and Oklahoma do, nothing beyond that right now is even something to discuss, because until the college football playoff expansion is decided, everything's kind of on hold, along with other conferences in their TV network talk. So that's for that right now. Let's see here. From Rich Boone, Railhead Barbecue in Fort Worth was one of my favorites when I worked downtown. Biscuits and gravy, according to my bracket, Kansas bows out Saturday when my husband's San Diego State Aztecs tape them out. Don't laugh until you've watched them play. And then also there's a couple of others. And Mike, again, talking about the how we cover all the Big 12. So appreciate a lot of it. Johnny Cage is a huge Kentucky fan. I hope North Carolina beats Baylor. I don't want to have to deal with them. I'm a Kentucky fan. Johnny Cage, why Calipari doesn't have any 6'10" footers except for Damian Collins is beyond me. There's not a lot of them. Really, if you think about it, in the tournament, there's not a lot of them. And it's the guard play that usually seems like it can win the national championship when you get the tournament play. Anyway, from Verlin, good to hear the HBCUs getting love. Verlin, we've done that. We did that well before Dion went to Jackson State, but thank you for noticing that as well. All right, when we come back, Tim Brando, many things to get to. His thoughts about the tournament, the seeds, teams on upset alert, his favorites, and more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace, just on the southern part of Waco, off I-35 on the access road of Highway 6 in what is Loop 340. Ideal MRI can do a lot of things for you, but the number one thing they can do is find out what hurts you that shuts you down. You can't sleep, you can't think, you can't function, you can't maybe even walk right, or you can't lift something. It could be a muscle, it could be a ligament, it could be in your knee, your back, your shoulder, whatever it is. Ideal MRI will find it, give you the evidence, the doctor will know, and you can then proceed from there. So if your doctor recommends Ideal MRI, you tell them, or your doctor recommends an MRI, you tell them, I want you to please contact Ideal MRI. In fact, I'll tell you this. I was talking to somebody in the medical business, in fact, yesterday, because I've had this kind of hip that's bothered me a little bit, so I had an x-ray. He told me, one of the great things about this is somebody in the medical business who said, if I had a patient or if it was me, I would go to Ideal MRI, $497 or less every single time, much less than anywhere else. And they'll also help you with filing insurance, and you never know, it could even be lower than that, but never higher than $497 at Ideal MRI. The front desk is Teresa, Marcus, Darlene, and Cheryl, the MRI techs, and much more. Of course, Dr. Rob Maxey from day one has been a part of this show. We appreciate him as well. IdealMRI.com.
At Allen Samuels, come see the Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 with 2.9% for 72 months, plus $1,500 in bonus cash. For all first responders, get an extra $500. Shop this incredible vehicle that gives you performance, style, perfect for your family, and reliability your family deserves today from Allen Samuels in Waco. Come shop our huge inventory at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Erie Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Kenjo, good feed, and there is Thamba.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. This 4 o'clock hour. Tim Brando, Fox Sports, great friend of the show, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. David Smoak and Craig Smoak. Paul's out today, back with us tomorrow. We'll be live in Fort Worth as Baylor opens the tournament up there. Tim, thanks for your time. If you don't mind, I'm going to start with a broadcast question. Your thoughts about some of the movement when it comes to the NFL with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman to ESPN, and it just seemed like things have it's a little, they free agency there as well.
Yeah, you can say that again. An old mentor of mine and friend from years gone by that helped mentor me when I got into this business, Kurt Gowdy, once said to me as a young aspiring broadcaster at the Final Four in New Orleans in 1982, he said, "Kid, remember this as you're on your path. The only thing that never changes is change."
Yep.
And, there's a lot of truth to that. They had a remarkable run of a long period of time at Fox. But the industry is changing without question. The digital, you guys see it, you're living it, from a local and regional standpoint. And it's true across the board at every level of broadcasting that the industry's changing. And so, you've got Amazon getting involved, and they procure the executive producer of NBC's NFL Sunday Night Football, Fred Godelli, who was broadcast associate and associate director when I was at ESPN. He's become really the premier producer of NFL football. His war chest is filled with Emmys, and he and Al Michaels are close. And so Al has shown the door really because of his age more than anything else. His fastball is still good. It's not, I think he's handled it with grace because he knew it was coming. Mike Tirico was
was hired with this in mind, and Al knew that. And then you have so you got Amazon. Really, I think is what spawns all of this. Is that now there are more ways to broadcast than just over the air linear commercial television, and for that matter, cable is struggling to find a way to hold on to its subscribers as a result. So, the industry's changed in every respect, and without question, ESPN was in desperate need of what they felt was a booth that would rival that of both CBS and Fox. So what did they do? They raided Fox's booth and found a very accommodating Troy Aikman and Joe Buck. So good for them. I do think that the relationship between the way broadcast television looks at commentators of live events has changed, and not for the better. The goal, I think, is to have premier talent for your best games. But I think that after that, it appears that play-by-play is becoming somewhat of a lost art. We're seeing more and more people that are under contract to do studio shows being told, hey, we want you to go do this or that game. And frankly, as you guys know, that's a different art form. Not everybody, in fact, very few have the ability to do both studio as well as play-by-play. For a lot of years, I fought the fact that I was a bit more of a studio entity and was, fortunately for me, good at it. It certainly served me well. But until I got to Fox, I was not able to do just play-by-play in my career path. I was trying to do a combination of both, and frankly, I think for the long haul, it was good because it kept me vibrant, kept me relevant, and people invisible. People knew who I was because they had seen me as well as were hearing me. But that's again, only a handful of people can do both, and you know who they are. Starting with Musburger and clearly guys like Nance and Chris Fowler's, I think, made a very nice adjustment to the booth over time. But there's not many of us that can do both. And when you start throwing out guys that are doing and anchoring Sports Center shows, and you tell them, okay, go do a ball game, that's a whole different thing. And I think to some extent, play-by-play has suffered somewhat in terms of its appreciation by those that are in positions to decide who does what. Clearly, it means a lot if you're going to be the number one team, and I think it means a lot if you're in the top tier, maybe the top 3 or 4 games that a network might have. But after that, it seems that it's become more and more difficult for young people that want to just do play-by-play to get a break because the jobs are going to people that clearly haven't done in my opinion, the duty that you need to do, due diligence to move up the ladder as play-by-play people to get that opportunity. But look, as a business, we all have to adjust and adapt, and it's clear that that's going on. And I think that with all the rights fees for both professional sports as well as college sports coming up, you're likely to see even more movement. There'll probably be even more movement that you haven't even thought about between now and the time toe meets leather next fall.
Tim, you've had an illustrious career and covered so many fantastic events over the years. Where does March Madness, where is that soft spot in your heart amongst like all the things that you've done and continue to do? What kind of a place does March Madness have there?
Oh, it's way up there. It's way up there. The most exciting and exhilarating time of my career was getting to do the NCAA tournament and all the way to the regional finals with Al McGuire back in the late 90s at CBS. That was a thrill for me. And it didn't last long because, speaking of movement, we got the NFL back at CBS after we had lost it to Fox. And here comes Vern Lundquist back, who had left CBS and had gone to Turner. And here comes Dick Enberg from NBC, whose contract wasn't picked up because this guy named Costas was pretty good. And Dick was in the twilight of his career, and Sean McManus, understandably, said, I want him. He's still got his fastball. So Dick came over, and I started doing the Division II National Championship, Elite Eight with CBS the second weekend after that. But it was a great run of 18 years, a lot of buzzer beaters, and an opportunity to work with some of the all-time greats like Billy Packer, Raft, and Al McGuire. And of course, now at Fox, I get to do the same during the regular season. Don't get to work the tournament, but I love the sport so much, fellas, that I don't miss it really. When you're just doing the first weekend, it's such a blur. You're preparing for 8 teams, 4 games in one day, and when it's over. And my last year was 9 years ago in 2013. In Austin. I didn't know it would be. I have an abrupt divorce, as it's been well documented with CBS in 2014 and moved over to Fox. But, I actually now appreciate watching all of the tournament. When I was doing it, I was living in this vacuum with 8 teams and four games, and then the 2, semifinals or second round games would be played, the round of 32, and then I was done. And then I had to hustle over to the Division II of the Elite Eight, usually in Springfield, and get ready for teams that I'd never seen before. And so I missed a lot of the tournament. And now I really get to enjoy it. And I'll go to the Final Four. I do the NABC coaches convention. I MC a number of their seminars, as well as the champions brunch for all of the regular season champions. And my friend Mike Oresco and I will, and our wives will sit together at the Final Four midcourt, and it's a wonderful thing. So it's the one sport and event that captivates us for 3 solid weeks. And at the end, I want to be there.
Yeah.
I don't say that about the World Series. I don't say that about the Super Bowl. I don't say it about any other major sporting event except March Madness and the NCAA tournament. So I'm forever a fan of it. Even though I'm no longer doing it. I hosted it at ESPN in the 80s, and I did play-by-play for CBS in the 90s and all the way through, 2013. So a nice 18-year run at one place and 9 years at another. So I got my fill of it, that's for sure.
Tim, when you're with Mike Oresco, would you nudge him and ask him when UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati might be able to leave that conference, and will be earlier than what maybe the so-called rules say? Because obviously those in the Big 12 interested with that, and who knows what might happen with that. That's interesting how quickly that flipped up.
Yeah, I think all of the movement has been put on hold in large measure, man, because because of the playoff being
no question.
pushed aside. The whole playoff expansion deal, reaching the fork in the road, and no one was able to get through the fork, means that I think you're going to be watching Oklahoma and Texas playing in the Big 12 for another 2 years. I really believe that. It could happen. It could happen that they would leave and miss that third year, when there's only 1 year left, because the buyout would not be as costly as it currently is. And I don't think it's that important necessarily to Texas, but it's very important to Oklahoma. And for Texas, I don't think that they believe that they're ready for the SEC just yet anyway. So let's just go ahead and keep playing ball in the Big 12 until we think we've got the program where it needs to be. That's my take on it. And I think that if I'm not accurate, I think I'm close to being accurate.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that has a lot to do with it. And there's some conferences with TV stuff coming up. The Pac-12 needs to figure out what they're going to do with a network that's not good. Hey, Tim, I want to get into the tournament. I know we have to leave at 4:30 with you, but you mentioned the Northwestern State men's basketball coach, 23 years there. It's interesting. I saw you make a comment. He's a legend. Unbelievable. Yeah. But I had a coach who's a Division I coach who has been a longtime friend of mine, mentioned that he was a little bit concerned. He had gone up there to see the retirement, that this happened very quickly and there wasn't a lot of time for former players to come in. Was this kind of sad the way this went down with his retirement?
No, to the contrary. It was anything but. It was anything but. And I know because they just got a new athletic director, and I had the same question. So
okay, good.
And I'm very close to the program. Northwestern State is an hour south of Shreveport. I live at the last exit on I-49, right off that. That's where Southern Trace is located, where I've lived for the last 30 years. So I can get there in 45 to 50 minutes. I almost went to the celebratory announcement yesterday, but I couldn't. Had a doctor's appointment that I had to make. But I've talked to Mike, and I've known Mike McConaughey since I was in the 8th grade trying to guard him in junior high. And believe me, I couldn't. He was a celebrated, I mean, big time celebrated high school recruit out of Airline High School in Bossier City, same school that produced Todd Walker, by example, in baseball. Mm-hmm. Played for 10 years and had a great career at LSU, a Golden Spikes winner. Mike was recruited by Scotty Robertson. You might remember that name from the NBA. He was with the Pistons for a number of years. Yep. Also, the Jazz when they were in New Orleans. Scotty was a high school coach at Byrd, which our rival school in Shreveport. And he went to Louisiana Tech in 1964. Had a wonderful run there. Mike went to Louisiana Tech to play for him and became, until Malone came along, I think he was the greatest player Louisiana Tech ever had. He was the all-time scoring leader. And his father, John McConaughey, was also an all-time great at Northwestern. So it took him a while to get an opportunity. He coached for 16 years at Bossier Parish Community College and was a consistent winner at that level in junior college, competing for championships against St. Jack and all the great teams back in that era between 83 and 99. He got the Northwestern job, got him into the first, what is now the first four. It was the play-in game in 2001 against Winthrop, and they won that game and then took on the number one seed that Bill Self had at Illinois at that time up in Dayton. And it was so cool for me to get to call a game with Rick Pitino. Pitino was between jobs. He'd been fired by the Celtics, and he was going to Louisville, as it turned out. And he did the tournament with me that year in Dayton. And so that was the first ever NCAA tournament win, in the big dance for that school. And then he goes back 5 years later. He had a number of championship teams there at Northwestern. In fact, while Brad Underwood was having that great run at Stephen F. Austin, their chief rival was Northwestern State. I mean, they were unbelievable rivals and played for titles, it seemed, every year. In 2006, he got in, went up to Michigan, up into Pontiac, and beat Iowa. They were the Big Ten champions. They were a third seed and beat them at the buzzer. Verd and Raft did that game. And they almost beat West Virginia to get to the Sweet 16 that year. And he continued on, got one more visit, which happened to be my last tournament in 2013 in Austin, and they played Florida when he won the Southland Conference again. He is the all-time winningest college basketball coach in Louisiana history. Now, that's saying something when you think about, the incredible run Dale Brown had. But sure. Dale's only job was at LSU. Mike was at the junior college level competing for national titles, and then he went over to the Southland Conference in Northwestern State and was always, in a position to win the league outright, but you had to win the tournament to get in, usually a one-bid league, as you know. And to get an NCAA tournament win for them was like winning a national title. I think the thing that happened to him, fellas, is, and it's happening in a lot of the small schools, the transfer portal is a real problem for schools that are in one-bid leagues and have very little budget. Schools like Northwestern have to play maybe 9 to 10 money games outside their league to sustain their athletic program, particularly if they're playing football, which they are at the FCS level. And those are long road trips, and they played a lot of teams in the Big 12, including Oklahoma State, who they beat at Gallagher-Iba Hall back in 2005. They were a tough out But they played, Arkansas. I think they came over to Baylor a few times, did they not? I'm pretty sure they did.
Yeah, They were on the non-conference schedule. They needed those games, like in SFA you mentioned. And by the way, the Nacogdoches and Natchitoches. I went to SFA, so I know all about Chief Caddo, the big wooden Indian. So
that's the biggest trophy. That's the biggest trophy in college sports, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is like a 6 or 8 or 10 foot monstrosity that sits in the end zone of whoever wins. Tim, on the tournament, we know there's always arguments about maybe someone should be a higher seed with a Tennessee and all that at 3 instead of 2, whatever. In your opinion, is there someone in particular among the top 2 or 3 seeds that you feel like is vulnerable or maybe should be early on with upset alert?
Yeah, Baylor. I do. I think Baylor got a tough draw. I think Baylor. Now, I don't think that they'll have a problem with the winner of the Marquette-Carolina game. But I think that's a vulnerable region, and I also think the Midwest, where Kansas is a vulnerable region because there are teams that are just matchup nightmares that you have to play. You guys will see it fairly soon on social media anyway, so I'll tell you, I've got St. Mary's beating UCLA and Baylor in back-to-back games. St. Mary's is a real problem for a team like Baylor, in my opinion. They handle it well. They've got bigs. You think about them and you say, well, they really don't attack, and they try to milk the clock and keep the game, in the 50s. That's really not the case necessarily with them. They've got very skilled offensive players and guys that can handle it all through their lineup. And I think that they're overlooked big time because of the domination in that league that Gonzaga has had for such a long time. They're a problem. And I think also Purdue is a problem. If I'm wrong about St. Mary's, I don't think I'm going to be wrong about Purdue. A lot of people have Kentucky coming through that region, as you know.
Sure.
I think Kentucky's problems with their guards, their injuries, with Ty and with Wheeler, who have not been healthy for, really the bulk of the last 6 weeks of the season, is a problem. If they could go, if they were healthy, then I'd feel differently. And you know what? You guys have gone through similar circumstances, as you know, with really talented players that haven't been in the lineup for, on a regular basis. That really disrupts your chemistry. And I give Scott a lot of credit for what he was able to do, to get this team to a number 1 seed, even with all those issues that he had within his league. I just think from a matchup standpoint, there are some really dangerous teams. And if I happen to be wrong, by the way, about St. Mary's, and it happens to be UCLA, my God, that's a tough out.
Yep.
They've got maybe the best starting 5 in college basketball. Now, they don't have much of a bench. They lack depth. But, there are just a lot of teams for them to get past. But I ultimately believe the team that you have to keep an eye on that's, say, above or below, let's say below a top 4 seed, is Iowa. Hawkeyes are playing better basketball right now than just about anybody in the country. And I think they, along with Wisconsin, are very dangerous teams for Kansas to deal with over in the Midwest.
Tim, I know you got to go. I have a question. I brought this up yesterday. I know you have a couple minutes here, and that's it. Yep. I don't like the fact that I understand who 16 seeds are. For example, tonight it's Wright State and Bryant.
Right.
I don't like that if they win a tournament, I don't care if they're 16 seeds or not, that they have to play a first 4, and then it's, why not have all the at-large teams do that, who are the last at-large to get in the tournament? I understand the size and the power and all that stuff, but I think that's a little bit greasy.
Well, let me say this. I've heard this said many, many times, and it's a reasonable objection to the way the tournament is handled. When they wound up going to 68, they almost, I think it was up to 92 maybe. I think that was the number that they thought about. And then we wouldn't have had all of this, which could be done and may be their next move when the television contract's up. But, God, that won't be for another 10 years. That deal's locked up until 2032. Going back to Mike McConaughey for just a second.
Yes, sir.
That year they were 16 and they were playing, and there was only one extra. What happened was there was another team, another conference that had had become eligible to be NCAA Division I, and they were off a number, so they had to have a play-in game, and they decided to do it in Dayton. And it went well, and Northwestern wound up playing Winthrop, Greg Marshall's team. And you know what? They won that game. They got first-round money. Now, remember, those schools the size of Bryant and Wright State and Northwestern, they get first-round win money, all right, for playing that game. So going to the next round for them, they're still going to get paid, even though they get knocked out by a 1 seed almost always, right? Until UMBC came along. Those schools, they love being able to put in their brochure, we went to the NCAAs and we got our first NCAA tournament win. Never mind, it was to just get in the field of 64.
Yeah,
they love the money, and they love to promote the fact that they got a tournament win, that they tasted victory during March Madness. And I think for those schools, from their prism, okay, they love it. They think it's wonderful. But I'm with you in the sense that it would really be nice if the committee looked at in the future, let's put more at-larges in here, and let's have a couple of more of these 12-5s, 11-6s, right? Guys having to earn their way in as an 11 or a 12 when, like, for instance, a team like Texas A&M and Xavier get left out. Wouldn't it be fun if you could go ahead and put them in and just have, more at-larges playing off for an opportunity to get in the field of 64? I'm with you there.
Yep.
But for the moment, for schools like Northwestern State and Bryant College and Texas Southern and the team that they beat last night,
A&M
Corpus Christi, man, it means the world to them to say, hey, we went to the tournament, we got a W in Dayton.
Yep, that's the 2001. They beat Winthrop and then lost to the number 1 seed in Illinois, as you mentioned. Tim, thank you, man. I appreciate you. We do. Craig, Paul, Smokey, we all appreciate you whenever we can get you on the show.
Well, happy to do it. And as the tournament gets going, let's do it again.
Yes, sir.
I've got a lot of time.
Yes,
I can only play so much golf and chase so many grandbabies. Okay?
You got
I'm
it.
here for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Tim
Take care.
Brando, Fox Sports with us. And at least it seemed like we've had Tim on almost once a month. In football season on occasion, even a couple of different times in a row. And so we will jot that down, and maybe after the first weekend or two, we'll be able to get back with him and his thoughts on the tournament.
Yeah, and that's a very valid point about being able to say that you got an NCAA tournment win, and put that in your brochure. So, yeah, that's a great point. As much as the games might be kind of forgettable or, not even really feeling like they're part of the tournament, because last night it did and it didn't. It was technically the tournament, but it didn't feel like what it's going to feel like tomorrow, because all of those games are going to feel like, all right, now we've got the tournament underway. But that is a great point on his part about being able to find a way to win a game in the tournament. And then for a lot of those schools that have done that through those play-in games, they wouldn't have those otherwise. Most likely. So, yeah, that's a nod to him on
otherwise, they're going to get blown up by the number 1 seed almost immediately, other than Maryland, Baltimore County. When we come back, one of the great Cinderella stories last year was Oral Roberts and Paul Mills, who we had on a couple of times during the tournament, like North Texas and Grant McCaslin. Paul Mills, his thoughts about the tournament, his thoughts about what he sees with Baylor. Also, Texas Tech, O'Banner, one of his guys. And help Texas Tech, of course, with the kind of year that they've had up until this time. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
March means 23 years in the automotive business for Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac. And in those 23 years, Richard Carr has sold the best trucks and cars on the road. And they have offered first-class vehicles you can trust. They want to thank Waco and Central Texas for their support over the years and look forward to many more years to come. Right now, new GMC trucks, Buick, and Cadillac SUVs are on their way. Richard Carr is seeing new vehicle arrivals each week, so sign up on their inbound vehicle list to get your new car or truck as they arrive. And for qualified buyers, you can buy a car or truck now and get 0% financing for 72 months on most GMC vehicles and Buick SUVs. And with summer vacation approaching, remember Richard Carr has 11 SUV models to choose from with dozens of trim options Literally a one-stop shop to find the perfect SUV for your needs. Starting at $24K. Call now, come by now, or go online to find the perfect SUV for your family this summer. And if you're not looking to buy new, Richard Carr also has plenty of premium pre-owned cars and trucks and over 10 lenders who will do what it takes to get you in a car today. It's anniversary month at Richard Carr. Trust the good local people you can count on for 23 years in Central Texas. Proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nikki Group Insurance Agency. With the Nikki Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nikki Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nikki Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you can fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
All right, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Last year, of course, was a great run for Oral Roberts, former Baylor assistant coach Paul Mills, a fantastic friend of our show. Oral Roberts, head coach Paul Mills joins us. Craig Smoak and David Smoak on Sikkim 365 Radio. I know this year didn't go as you wanted, but in the end, kind of, if you don't mind to start off with this, great to have you on. What do you feel like where you are with your program following this year and moving forward?
Craig, David, thanks for having me, number one. And the reality is for every college coach in the country, only one of us is going to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 358 of us, and last year Scott Drew was the lucky one. This year, the rest is to be decided. But, as a program, I think the thing that you're always trying to evaluate is not necessarily the destination, but the direction. Everybody has the same destination. You would like to win a national championship, but are you headed in that direction? And so for me, I've been a part of 2 rebuilds, one at Baylor for 14 seasons. And our second year there, we won 1 game in the entire conference season. And then my last year there, we were number 1 in the country. So I watched the pendulum swing on that. When I came here in the rebuild, we had 6 Division I wins. And, in 5 years, we've more than tripled that. And actually, have more tournament wins than the history of the school last year. And this year we had more conference wins than we've had in the past decade. And so what you're always trying to figure out is, are you headed in the right direction? And we've made progress here each and every year. Been fortunate to recruit 2 All-Americans. We had another All-American this year, and we've had 19 all-conference selections during my time here. So we're recruiting the right guys. We're developing the right guys. And fortunately for us, it's translating into wins. It hasn't translated to a national championship yet, but that is the destination.
Coach, having been part of a lot of NCAA tournaments, we were talking to King McClure the other day, and I was asking him from a player's perspective, how do you go about trying not to overthink, okay, it's the tournament now? And, and so many times coaches talk about just, keeping it steady and keeping focused and all of that. But is it hard to kind of navigate the feelings of the team and even the staff, the excitement level of being in the tournament, and how do you navigate that?
Well, I think it all depends on how experienced you are. In 2014, we had an experienced team, and we ended up losing in the first round. And the same thing happened again the following year. And then in 2016, we were able to have a team that was really, really dialed in and was able to go in. And I think that was the year that we went to the Sweet 16. We started off 2-8 in conference and really struggled, but we had a group that really believed and won. Ended up going to the Sweet 16 that year with a quality team. And so I think that every single year is different because of the experience. Scott called me last night at 10:45 and was talking to him. And so I think that what happens is for a lot of guys, it is how experienced are you? What is your mental makeup? I think for Jeremy and Kendall and freshmen, it'll be a little bit new. And then you have your guys who've been around in Adam and Matthew and James Akinjo, who's been in these environments, that all of those things, the experience factored in with the inexperience, those guys can really help. Obviously last year's group, with Maceo Teague and Butler. And I mean, all those guys, they were really experienced. Mark Vidal was in his 11th year playing college ball. So all of those things really, really help. And I think this year they've been in enough hard games. The gauntlet of the Big 12 really prepares you. And I think those guys will be fine, but it's obviously different for each and every player.
So they have had, and you've seen him do this before, back when Tristan Clark got hurt, but they had to reinvent themselves when Jonathan Chamachacha went out, LJ Cryer, and they've had other injuries along the way, Sohan, Flagler, Akinjo, and the tailbone injury. Your thoughts about how quickly they did that, and I'm sure you weren't surprised they were able to do that, and then they found themselves in the mix to win another conference championship.
Yeah, it's just an incredible job by everybody there. And I think that what you've seen is when Jonathan went down, you've seen Flo really assert himself. And, you know, all of a sudden Flo's out there getting double-doubles. And you knew that he was capable, but obviously being able to play minutes that you're fresh and having Jonathan being able to come in some of those moments, it kind of helps. But then, you know, when Jonathan's out and a lot gets thrown on your shoulders, you realize that, man, I need to step up in a number of different ways. And I think what you've seen is really an assertion of Flo and his ability to really jump in. Kendall and Jeremy are obviously really talented. And then, you know, when Adam gets going, he's so fun to watch just because of his ability to make shots. And James' ability, just, you know, being recognized yesterday as an All-American, and everybody knows how quickly Matthew can heat up. But, I mean, you're dealing with 6 guys who, 4 of those 6, I have a lot of experience. Kendall and Jeremy, I wouldn't consider freshmen anymore, given the number of games that they played. But the reality is that Scott can do a good job of kind of moving pieces around, and then it's incumbent upon the players when a bigger load is asked of you that you step up. And to Flo's credit, he's really done that.
Coach, back early in December, you guys played on the road at TCU. TCU makes a tournament, will face Seton Hall, and they gave some Big 12 teams fits down the stretch. You know, obviously had some big wins there. Did you see something kind of then building with TCU? Did you think that they were, you know, a tournament-capable team at that time? And just what did you think of meeting them then and seeing where they are now?
Yeah, I mean, we finished top 5 in the country in 7 different categories. And one of them was defensive rebounding. We finished 5th in the country in defensive rebounding. Well, TCU can really rebound. And I remember walking out of that game, we ended up losing by 3 possessions. And I was like, I think we're halfway decent at rebounding. I didn't know we'd end up top 5 in the country. But I had no idea just how good TCU was. And you knew that they were really talented, really good, that they were going to be tough on their home floor. But they are a phenomenal rebounding team. They have a player who can go get you a bucket in Mike Miles this late in the year. And they're just super solid defensively. I wouldn't tell you that I think Baylor is elite at times defensively, and you've seen glimpses of that out of TCU. But they are solid defensively, and they have a player who can go get you a bucket. And this time of year, that stuff really matters when you're in droughts. And the other thing about them is they've got really good depth, and those things will really aid. And the playing in the Big 12 conference, you walk into NCAA games and you go, wow, this isn't the Big 12. It's tough, but you realize that from a Big 12 perspective, that a lot of teams don't measure up talent-wise. Doesn't mean you're going to win, but it really prepares you.
You had, and I hope it's okay for me to bring it up, I have to, you had that run last year, but all of a sudden the transfer portal hurt you. It can help you, and it can also take it away. How much did it hurt? And we've seen what he's done with O'Banner at Texas Tech.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to disagree with you there, Smokey. We added from the transfer portal. We got a young man from Vanderbilt, got another young man from Oklahoma, and the reality is we were better. We were better offensively. It didn't play that way out in regards to the NCAA tournament, but I would tell you that our league got better. We were 13-2. Finished 3rd against everybody below us in our conference. We were 0-5 against the 2 teams above us, and they were 2. They had super seniors. They were 2 of the top 10 experienced teams in the country, and I didn't have any 4-year guys, and all my guys were sophomore and juniors. But we had the experience of the NCAA tournament, and so I wish. Nobody wishes COVID had been around, but if COVID hadn't ever been around and nobody was playing with 50-year kids, I think it would be different. But we were much better offensively and through the course of the year, and I'm really excited about our guys and where we're headed.
You mentioned that what Scott's done and who they have, and that, of course, we know about their bench. And Craig, and we have now been saying this. Listen, this is who they've been now for a while, and they beat Kansas and Texas in 3 days with who they are now. And then, of course, everyone also remembers your last game with Oklahoma when they shot lights out. Can they be who they were against Kansas and Texas starting tomorrow against Norfolk State?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, to be honest with you, if you look back to a year ago to where they lost to Oklahoma State in the opener and then, losing this year to Oklahoma, if you know Scott at all, he is like superstitious. And I'm not telling you that he threw the game, but the extra rest and the extra practice. I remember, visiting with Jerome and Scott. We all got together when we were in Indianapolis, and he says, I think we're back to our old ways. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, man, we were really able to practice and get dialed in on defensively the things that we needed. And then all of a sudden, you see Davion just really out there back to his old self. And so I think that the extra rest, the extra practice time, I think you see this, Illinois ended up winning the Big Ten, and then Brad Underwood was happy to some degree. He says, I'm not disappointed at all that we've lost in the Big Ten tournament, because last year they lose in order to advance to the Sweet 16. And he says, our guys were so drained from that tournament. Now, those guys play through Sunday, and they're the last team to play. And so I would just tell you from a physical standpoint, it's really hard on those guys. But I'm telling you, the extra rest, the extra practice is really, really going to help Baylor, very similar to it did a year ago. And so much of this is coming down to matchups. I think they have really good matchups.
Coach, sorry for the general question here, but there's just so many games and so many teams, obviously with this large tournament. Was there, when the bracket was released, maybe a region or a pairing, or is there just a team in general that you've kind of had your eye on here as of late that's maybe playing a little bit hot? What were kind of your initial impressions of seeing the bracket?
Well, I got to tell you, it's like death through 1,000 cut selection Sunday if you're not in. Yeah. It's Christmas morning if you are. It's tough if you're not. The only reason I looked at a bracket is because I had to attend a bracketology event with Joe Lenardi, and he's smarter than me on all this stuff on Monday morning at 7:30. So I'm just listening to Joe and paying attention. Looking through it, just looking through the bracket, you're always trying to identify, an upset's coming, right? The reality of that. And you're trying to figure out where that may be, what teams are playing well, what teams are healthy. And there's no specific region. I think that Arizona is playing really well, and their level of pace and their ability to defend multiple positions with their personnel is huge. I think that, kind of like a number of players, you have to go through losing before you really realize winning. I think that's what's happened to Gonzaga and Drew Timme and Chet Holmgren. I mean, those two as a pair, maybe as good as we've seen in a while. I think Chet's probably a once-in-a-decade kind of player. And then as you look through Baylor's, you look through Kansas, the two other Big 12. I don't think that anything is surprising, but the reality is these are really, really tough games, and you can't ever look ahead. And I can assure you that Baylor is focused on Norfolk State, but I think it's North Carolina and somebody in that next one. And your focus better be on Norfolk State and get your players. Baylor has a mantra of trying to go 1-0, and you better just try to go 1-0 and then refocus on the next one. But the tournament's the greatest tournament in the world because the best teams in the world are in it. So these are always fun events.
How dangerous is South Dakota State?
Really good. They can really shoot. If you look at it, they have 3 of the top 15 shooters in the country. They're older, and so when you have guys that are older, but they're the number 1 3-point shooting team in the country. To give you an idea, they shoot 44%. I think there are, as a team, they shoot 44%. I think if you look at it, there's actually 11 players who shoot better than 44%, and they do it collectively. So their ability to shoot is kind of mind-boggling when you look at the numbers. And so it's, man, can you push out on those guys, run them off the line, and then can you make them play through you when they shoot twos? And it's easier said than done. And we ended up losing an overtime game to them here, but they're a really good team. But I've seen Providence a little bit. I know how much the Big East prepares those guys, and so that'll be a heck of a ball game.
Last thing, and I appreciate you, and I know that conference is incredibly competitive, and you're going to get them back to where you want to be and they need to be. How much can you put into words, money, or even momentum, what last year's tournament run meant to you in not only the transfers that you got, but also moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, what we've seen, I think we saw a 12% increase in enrollment. I know one guy watched us play, and he's been a supporter of the university, but he said, what do you need in order to really accelerate? And we needed a practice facility, and he said, hey, let me give you $25 million to start that.
Wow.
And so the city of Tulsa was behind us. I think that there were some 160 million impressions where people were Googling or trying to identify where is Oral Roberts, what is ORU, and it's a Christian school located in Tulsa. And so I think that you really can't put into words if you tried to get the same money through advertisement dollars, you're probably talking in the hundreds of millions. And so the media generated from a run like that helps. And more importantly, it's a memory that your players will never forget. And it's also something that they'll strive towards. And so the whole idea of where excellence is as a standard helps. But at the same time, you're helping young men and their families to remember something that they'll never forget. And I think at the end of the day, people remember how you make them feel. And if you can make people feel valued through a sport, and they have something to cheer for because you're doing it the right way, I don't think that there's a dollar number you could ever put on that.
Can I ask you one more thing, if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
You've gone through a season, a tournament, and people have been interested in you and eventually the Oral Roberts opportunity. Grant McCaslin, North Texas, Matt Driscoll, of course, with North Florida. You know that your great friend Jerome Tang was last year involved in teams or programs that wanted him, and his name's up again. At least you hear it, and it should be, of some of the openings. How hard is that to deal with that? I know Jerome sent me a text. I'm worried about getting us a win on Thursday. That's the way he is. That's the way it should be. But is that kind of at times something that's kind of hard to balance?
No, honest to goodness, he's experienced at it. I'm keenly aware of all the jobs that he's turned down because we talk quite often. And so I'm very aware of the opportunities that have been extended, and he just at that particular time didn't think it was best for, more importantly, his family, because Jerome could pack up and move anywhere. If Iceland offered him a job, he could go do it. But he's so cognizant, obviously, of his wife and his children, and so he's very much aware of that. For him, I would tell you that if you're younger, it's probably a distraction. But for him, I just think that he's been through this so much, obviously being with Scott for 19 years, having opportunities to leave on multiple occasions. I mean, people have tried to pluck him as an assistant and multiple times. And he's been very loyal to the mission at Baylor, wants to continue to do that. But he's a veteran. He's been around this block a time or two, and so he knows how to handle it. But it's really not a question of if he'll be a head coach. It's just a matter of when. And obviously Grant being as successful, Matt Driscoll is the all-time leader at North Florida. Scott prepares all of us well, and it's a matter of time, and Jerome will kill it.
Thank you, Paul. We appreciate
But the same is true for Jacobs, and the same is true for Coach Brooks.
Yeah.
And it's really true for all those guys simply because of the way that Scott models leadership for us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you giving us time, Paul. Look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Paul Mills, head basketball coach at Oral Roberts, with us on many things, the tournament, South Dakota State, who won the league he's in, and others, including Baylor's reinvention and a little bit about Jerome Tang. When we come back, Baylor women open up the NCAA tournament home on Friday, 3 o'clock against Hawaii. And then if they win, and they should, on Sunday. And then after that, they keep moving on as well. What a year it's been. Nikki Collen, Baylor women's basketball coach, in an interview from did earlier today on many things about the program, about the year, and going forward. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and perhaps as you've gotten older, you used to be. Things happen. Father time, it's part of life. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone that could be, and you hear this a lot, sex drive. But it also could be sleep habits, and it could be energy. You just don't feel the same. I told you, I bumped into a guy. He said, I heard you talking about Dr. Petty at PettyClinicLowT.com. He goes, I didn't go there because I went to my doctor and asked him, hey, could that be me? And sure enough, it was. His testosterone level was way down, like in the 200 range. That's well below where it should be. And so he got himself involved in a program. If, in fact, you have any of what I mentioned, sex drive, it's not the same. Sleep habits, not the same. Energy, not the same. Dr. Kent Petty at PettyClinicLowT.com can set you up to get your blood work. He'll set it up with a discounted rate and then look at your results. And if your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone level to take care of whatever 1, 2, or all 3 of those symptoms you might have. It's PettyClinicLowT.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Ram Truck Month is here, and it's all about the championship drive as our hometown teams march towards another exciting championship drive. And so can you in your new vehicle from Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Waco. Shop for power, performance, and reliability with the brands that bring you what you want to drive. Come in today and see our selection of new 2022 trucks, SUVs, and cars. It's time to take home the trophy from Allen Samuels in Waco. Shop the huge inventory of new car and truck inventory in stock today.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nunley Group Insurance Agency. With the Nunley Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nunley Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nunley Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
It would have counted. Offensive rebound by Smith, and she's got a new.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Now here's David Smoak and Craig Smoak.
Joined by Baylor women's basketball coach Nikki Collen, again about to start the NCAA tournament, Hawaii on Friday afternoon. Is it kind of a reset mentally through the grind of the season, post the conference tournament? Is this kind of an emotional or physical reset in any way?
You know, I think it's just like a new start. So in some ways a reset, a reboot. I mean, I think everybody knows at this point you're 0-0, and you know your goal is to win 6 games and be the only team in the country that finishes their season with a win. So I think it's kind of rejuvenating just to be in that space, to not be fighting out of an 0-2 hole in a conference regular season or things like that. You know, we're all so it is a bit of a fresh start.
When you were 0-2 to compare to where you got to win it all, and then you got through the championship game on Sunday with Texas, did that climb out of 0-2 seem like it was months rather than maybe 6 or 8 weeks?
You know, I always say, like, in general, I always felt this way even when I was a stay-at-home parent, that, like, days were long and sometimes weeks were long, but then a month would go by and you'd just feel like you just blinked and a month had gone by. And so in some ways it was a little of both. I think the grind, the daily grind, made it feel long, but all of a sudden you look back and you go, wow, I remember sitting in COVID isolation in my house, realizing that I'd been in that rental property since August and probably spent more time in those 5 days in my house than I had, you know, in the previous 6 months. So, you know, I do think it went more quickly than you realize because, you know, you're fighting so hard to be the best version of yourself. And, you know, but all of a sudden you're 1 game away and then you're in the conference tournament. Now we're in the NCAA tournament. Now you look back and it's like, wow, I got hired on May 3rd and here we are in March. So, you know, it's kind of crazy.
I want to go back to last weekend for just one more time, and then I want to focus, of course, on the future, which is what you guys are doing. You and I traded a couple of text messages about your post-game, the emotions, and it seemed like you had been, at times, you were transparent throughout the entire season, but you really unleashed a little bit. Was that just all of it coming together at once and losing? And then you said you felt a little vulnerable. There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
There isn't, and you know, like, you obviously sent me a quote that's Brene Brown, who is someone that I've read so many of her books and listened to her podcasts. And gosh, I think about the pandemic and being stuck at home during the pandemic, those early few weeks, and walking just to get out of the house and do something, and I'd put her podcast on. So I know that vulnerability is strength. I just think that, while I certainly came into this job needing to be my authentic self, the comparison game was going to get me nowhere fast from the beginning. But I think, it was the emotional buildup in that moment of months of, hey, when we win, that's the standard and the expectation. And it's almost like it takes the joy away from it, because it's what you're supposed to do. It's what people expect. And if you lose, then you're not good enough, or it would have been different if, or, everybody has something to say. And so it just, that is mentally draining, and it doesn't mean I didn't know it was going to be tough, but I think when you're going through it, you realize that it's just really hard to please people. And I've learned a valuable lesson at 46 years old this year that, quite frankly, no matter what I do, no matter how good or not good we are, some people just aren't going to like me, and that is not, honestly, David, that is not an easy thing for me. It's not how I'm wired. I'm so people-centric and people-driven, and, I've said from the beginning, hey, you may not like how we play, you may not like my style, but I think I'm really hard to dislike. Well, the reality is people just chose to dislike me. And so I know who matters, and in that moment it was making sure people understood that I know who matters, and it's the locker room, it's my team, it's my staff. Mac and Javon, obviously, we're in the locker room, those that's family, and that's what's important. And and so you're always growing as a human. If you don't, why are you around, but I think, we're always learning different lessons, and that's really my lesson that I learned this year.
You sit there and you sometimes may say, and in the media, my job, what I do, our profession, is you sit there and go, don't listen to the outside noise, don't criticism, it's hard. It's almost, some people really can just deflect it and not care, but there are different people, you and I, whoever, are wired differently, and you do hear it, and it does hurt. Now, you were playing really well. I know Sunday didn't go well. In your opinion, regardless of Sunday, are you playing at a level where you can get to the Final Four?
Yes, and you can't discount what happened Sunday, but for us, I think we have to throw it away. I think we have to understand that we're going to potentially face teams that are going to put that kind of physical pressure, and that we have to be more mentally poised. It's not the physical pressure that ultimately gets to you against Texas. It's the mental fatigue from handling the pressure, and we were poised enough the first two times we played them. And, whether it was losing Melissa, whether it was third game in 3 days, I hate using that as an excuse, because Texas played 3 games in 3 days as well, and they played overtime, and Rory and Joanne went all 40 in the 45 in the Iowa State game and 40 in our game. And so, you saw moments where you thought, okay, here's our run. And then we would just throw the ball out of bounds, totally unforced turnover type of thing. And you just knew it wasn't our day. And that happens in sports. And so you just have to turn around and say, okay, we've got to be the confident team that played against Oklahoma. And, we just have to understand with each opponent where our strengths. And certainly part of our strength is our balance, and our ability to play inside out. But when you start to play teams that now you haven't played twice in 3-10, or if it's Caitlin and Liz and Queen that you've played against those teams 3 times a season for 4 years, you can't take for granted now that you have to do your prep. That you've got to understand your scout, because these aren't players that you've played against before, or you've played against them once, or, and so I think that's the challenge. The challenge for us is like just the refocus, the attention to detail, not taking any opponent we play for granted, regardless of seed. And so I think that's where we're at.
Obviously, Nalissa has the ability to carry a team on her back, but it takes everybody. Jordan, Sarah, whoever else, Queen, I know Caitlin, and I'm not trying to forget Jamie. There's other names. But who has to play better? Who has to be like the difference maker other than the ones that people know you have to rely on? And you don't have many because of your depth and attrition, but is there someone that must step up this week into the next 3 weekends if you're going to last that long?
Well, I think every team, when we certainly scout, we look at wins versus losses, and like what are the analytics of that? Are they team driven? Is it rebounding? Is it turnover margin? Is it points in the paint? What is that number? And then, or is it player driven? And sometimes it's both, or you can find two things. I'll give you an example. In Iowa State's win, Donarski is a big factor. In their losses, she's not. We beat them by 25 points twice. Donarski never hit double figures. So that lines up. Now, small sample size with teams that haven't lost a lot of games, obviously. Mm-hmm. But ours is Queen. Ours is, in our wins, Queen averages 13 points and 9 rebounds. And in our losses, she's around like 6 and 5. And it's not dictated by number of shots because her shot volume is very similar. But I think, we started out that game, and I think that Texas game goes differently if we just step up and make foul shots, So I think Queen is important for us. She's important at the defensive end, that she stays out of foul trouble, that she rim protects without fouling, that we can play through the paint, with both Liz and her. And then for us, a big part is Jordan. I think that Jordan kept us in that game early against Texas, but struggled in the second half. But we've been at our best when she's been aggressive and searched shots early. When you think about the Iowa State games, and she was such a huge factor for us. And so, Sarah's been dealing with injuries for the last 3 weeks, and I think, it's probably made her production go down, and we feel like, we would rather have. Sarah at 70% than no Sarah. Mm-hmm. But I think, those two really, because they both handle so much pressure for us, are key players for us. Like, if you look at our wins and losses, Melissa's numbers don't matter. And I don't mean they don't matter.
Sure.
They matter.
Right.
But I mean, they're consistent. Wins and losses, she puts points on the board for us, and we're going to play to her and through her. But I think it's sometimes those other pieces that are just as valuable to us in terms of protecting her, quite frankly, and not putting it all on her shoulders.
She came back and played a lot in that game with Texas. Is everything, there's no repercussions or consequences? She's fine, right? She's okay to go, everything good?
She is fine. Now, we did all the diagnostic tests when we got back just to make sure, I will never, ever, prioritize, the team and winning a game over player safety. Mm-hmm. And Liz has a huge, huge future in front of her. And so, they told me she was going to try in the second half. And, we actually even questioned whether we should start her because she had 3 fouls. She not only had gotten hurt, but she had 3 fouls. And, I'm like, well, if she's going to play, she needs to play now when she's warm, or we can get her warmed up out there. And then, if she can't go, I gotta know, and we'll pull her right away. And so, she went the entire second half. So, and, as much as we weren't great, our plus minus when Liz was on the court, even during that Texas game, we were only -2. So, had we had her the whole night, that game might have been a little different. But no, she's okay. We're certainly being careful in her return to play, but she's okay.
you mentioned in my last question, you mentioned about what matters is what's in that locker room. Earlier this year when you beat Iowa State at home, I remember when Queen Egbo, and I believe it might have been Jordan Lewis, it could have been somebody else, I don't remember, when they were very much, they had your back, and they talked about the grind and all of the chatter, and I remember that moment. I remember I told you that you had kind of a tear in your eye, but Sunday, when you were discussing the emotions and the grind of the season and how you wanted them to win for them, when that time became kind of that really emotional time, Nalissa leaned over and kind of touched your shoulder. What did that mean to you?
Well, it's kind of out of character for Liz, so it actually meant a lot. Like, she's a fairly reserved kid, fun kid, great personality, but, not the loudest in the group, not the most, I think, willing to put her emotions on her sleeve, a little more private. So it meant a lot, like I think, I certainly think she's felt some of the pressure too. Now, it's different when you're a player. You control, like you're out there and she can control whether we get a rebound or not, and, she has more control than I do. And I've always said that's why, as much as I'm passionate about basketball, if I could still be playing, I'd rather play than coach, because when you're a point guard, you have the ultimate control as a basketball player. But Nalissa Smith has grown her game, grown her leadership capacity this year, and I just think proven kind of that she's got such a bright future ahead of her. Like, people ask me, like, obviously unanimous first team AP All-American announced today, but someone said, like, make your case, why is she player of the year, and it's always so hard because I don't coach Caitlin Clark, I don't coach Aaliyah Boston. Everybody's team's different. Liz can't pull up from 40 feet and make a three. She doesn't have the size that Boston has. Like, you're talking about positionally 3 different positions, and but I think what Liz took on with a limited roster, the consistency that she's had, whether it's double teams or no double teams, whether teams play man or zone, I just think she has grown so much in terms of being able to be moved around. Like, she's just the ultimate queen on a chessboard that I get to move around. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing, that over time she's learned what I'm doing, and maybe even why. Like, I think we're getting to the point where there's the why is beginning. She's beginning to understand the why, as opposed to, like, really just kind of, okay, here's the play. Here's why I'm running that play for you. I'm screening you to the perimeter. I'm screening you into the post. I'm playing. I said it was as simple as in the Oklahoma game, we thought she's got the size to dominate in the paint, and we were getting her the ball on the block, and she was struggling. Like, they were, she was turned into the baseline side. And then, man, when we went to Horns and kept her in the tunnel, and now she can chase up and she can play either direction, and she doesn't have the sideline or the baseline in her way, all of a sudden it was like the game was a wrap. I mean, it was a wrap. And so, sometimes even for me, it takes me a minute to say, okay, this is where Liz needs to be right now. Mm-hmm. And against Texas, it was screening her, not in this game, but in the last time we played Texas, I screened her to the perimeter and isolated her. I needed to sooner against Texas this time, get her in the post-to-post ball screen, because she was 2 for 2 in it, and get her to where Ebo's got to switch and guard her, and so there's but I think she gets it. Like, I think she gets why I'm putting her in the different positions that I put her in. And so I think that's what's been really fun to see her growth on the court, because it's not like I can pretend that I created her, because I didn't. Mm-hmm. She's a product of her family and her upbringing. She's a product of Ray Caldwell with San Antonio's Finest. She's a product of Kim Mulkey, and I inherited a really good player that I just kind of opened up the playbook to.
You do understand
that for every one person that might say something negative, Baylor fans really, really love your style. And they really appreciate your transparency and what you've done under the circumstances. You understand that, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I am incredibly grateful. That's why, it's almost like part of when I said I felt vulnerable was because it wasn't so much in that moment, because it was an emotional reaction. And, like, I'm okay with wearing my emotions on my sleeve. I think it was, I'm so uncomfortable, even though I'm not afraid to have the spotlight. I'm not afraid to be in the public eye, to do my job, to meet people, to be the face of Baylor, women's basketball. But I always wanted to be about the players. And I felt like there was such an outpouring of support when, that emotional media clip, hit.
Sure.
That, like, then all of a sudden I felt vulnerable, because it turned back in, and everyone was like saying all these kind things, and which I'm grateful for. But it was like, okay, like, this is not me. I want this to be about the players. Wow. This isn't about what I've done or not done. And so in some ways, I think that was what made me more uncomfortable than just the actual emotional reaction to that moment of the press conference, or how I reacted. Like, I've told the players, like, hey, this is just like who I am. Like, there's times I'm going to laugh. There's times I'm going to cry. Like, I don't see it as a sign of weakness. But, like, you're going to know. Like, you're going to know. I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to tell you when I'm disappointed. I'm going to tell you when I screw up. I'm going to tell you that I could have been better, that I will be better, that we can be better. But I'm also going to be joyful in my approach to my job. And so that was kind of it as much as anything. So I am incredibly grateful to be at Baylor. I would never take the decision back or anything like that. I just think sometimes people think this was an easy job because I inherited Melissa Smith.
Yeah.
And that is an amazing thing to start with. You know what I mean? Like, I am grateful for that, but I also think there were so many things in play here, back to, like, this expectation that winning is the only thing. Like, winning is the only thing. And, wanting my team to truly understand and be joyful in winning, and being joyful in getting to spend every moment that we can together, and know that you may not be on a better team. Like, I hope you are. But if this is the best team you're ever on, what are you giving? How much of yourself are you investing? Because young players are always like, well, there's next year. And then you get to be a senior and you're like, wow, this is it, And so I think it's very easy to take for granted, like, the grind, which is where you create the memories that you take with you for a lifetime.
I know you got a game to get ready for in a tournament. Nikki, appreciate everything, the access, the emotions, and again, the transparency. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, David.
Nikki Collen, Baylor women's basketball coach on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Coming up next, Kendall Kaut on Baylor men's basketball on the eve of the tournament and the opener for them against Norfolk State. Waco Custom Marketplace. I've told you this. Live crawfish, 30-pound sacks, ordered by Wednesday at 6. Well, it's 5:25 Wednesday. So if you're in the Waco area or you want crawfish, live crawfish tails, 30-pound sacks, the price was at $4.50, $4.25, $3.99 a pound. This week, $3.75 a pound as the number keeps going down, unlike gasoline prices. Live crawfish, 30-pound bags, pre-order by 6 o'clock tonight, Waco Custom Marketplace. Pick them up or anytime after 4 o'clock on Friday, or at your convenience when they're open on Saturday. Now, those prices per pound can change, but right now, this week, it's $3.75 a pound. And if you want something from a bakery or butcher shop, they have full-fledged, full-throttle bakery and butcher shop, fresh baked bread, fresh baked kolaches, whatever you need, treats and sweets, and, of course, beef, pork, poultry, and also seafood as well. Their bone-in ribeyes are just unbelievable, the way they cut them and the way they taste. It's Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions. fast friendships, and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Brad Boozer, Boozer Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
Kendall Kaut's a brilliant writer, covers men's basketball. Glad to have him as a part of Sikkim365.com and as a guest on Sikkim 365 Radio. And he has a story in the premium section. Kaut's thoughts, base rate neglect in Baylor in the 2022 NCAA tournament. I know, Kendall, you got a flight here in about a half an hour, but I mean, you went into depth about politics and like world history in comparing whatever these things you are about people who hit things on the nose or don't. Your thoughts about kind of how you came about that story?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Smoak. Always happy to join you all. I like to talk politics in a way that doesn't get too political. By that I mean, you know, there isn't really a monoculture in America anymore. We're in 1995. Everybody sat down, watched Seinfeld, even Major League Baseball, the NBA. Kind of the NFL might be the last refuge of that in America. But even the people who hate Donald Trump or hate Joe Biden at least recognize the elections occurred. So I think for me, the easiest thing is just like, okay, can I go back to like 2010 when, despite being very partisan, it was a little less partisan and the hats are a little different, to try and attach that feeling that we at least have some understanding. That's my hope. I was really glad when I read the comments, despite knowing, you know, this person's a MAGA diehard or this person, you know, was a block Trump up day one kind of guy. Nobody wanted to jump in and debate politics there. They wanted to debate Baylor basketball. I think that's the apex of why sports is great, that you have people that are MAGA diehards or people that are Biden's the greatest of all time, and they can just talk Baylor basketball, be friends, and get along for the day.
So taking a look at tomorrow in Fort Worth, it'll be Baylor and Norfolk State. Kendall, what have you gathered about Norfolk State at this point?
Craig, I haven't spent as much time on them. Obviously, they won a lot of games at the end of the season. Were able to win their league. I think the big thing is, if I'm looking at Baylor staff, they always focus on kind of, look, don't disrespect an opponent like this after the Texas Southern defeat in 2019. I think they'll play up that Mizzou loss to Norfolk State when it's a 2-15 game after Mizzou had been so dominant the second half of Big 12 play that season. They'll point out that their top scorer was the player of the year in their league. But realistically, Baylor has no business losing that game. Every joke you will hear if you're a Baylor fan for the next year you have to take, like Virginia did. Just no excuse for that loss. I don't care injuries. I don't care if Jeremy Sohan and Kendall Brown get lost on the way to the arena and can't find their way out of the bus. The guys you have to be able to beat Norfolk State tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you're a number one seed, so you get to play close if you can, and also you get to play somebody that you should beat in the first round. And overall thoughts, Kendall, you know who they are. They know who they are. They did get beat by Oklahoma. Is that an outlier, or is that something that in the end, and I'm not one of those, well, it was probably good they get extra practice time. I've never been that way. But in the end, could that have worked out for them?
It could work out for them, Smokey. I do think that was an outlier game, right? Baylor could lose in the tournament to North Carolina or Marquette, UCLA, St. Mary's, Indiana, any of those teams from here on out, because even a top 5 team loses to a team that's ranked somewhere between 15 and 40 on a regular day of college basketball. But that OU game was so strange that OU normally doesn't hit threes like that. And Baylor, as bad as they've been from 3 without LJ, is not as bad as they were from 3 that day. So there were 2 very uniquely bad events. Teams lose games like that in the tournament. I brought up when KU lost to VCU in the Elite Eight a few years ago. VCU shot out of its mind. KU shot about the worst it had all season. Shaka Smart parlays that to the Texas job. Now at Marquette, maybe it all comes full circle. But I just don't think if Baylor loses North Carolina or Marquette, it's likely to be the way it lost to Oklahoma. That was just such an outlier game for the Bears.
So, Kendall, when it comes to Baylor and the way that they've been playing here as of late, how do you kind of view what's needed for a tournament run? I mean, obviously everybody's got to step up their game, a pretty significant level to go to where they want to ultimately go. But what little tweaks or things do you see that if they do happen, Baylor's got a good chance to make a deep run?
I think, Craig, for me, it's one simple thing. Kendall Brown has got to take threes when he's open. If I'm Norfolk State, I'd literally say we're just going to look there Kendall Brown to shoot because he hasn't taken them. Kendall Brown is outlier athletic compared to anybody that they will have on the floor. And I think if you're a team in that round, I think if you're even Carolina or Marquette in the second round, you say, you know what, we're going to close out soft on Kendall, make him prove he can hit threes, kind of like KU did at Allen Fieldhouse. Everybody, I'm sure, watched that Our Time show where Kendall's nailing threes. He's made him at a pretty decent clip this year and taken them. But he's been reluctant to do so, and I think that'll be the challenge for Baylor this week to tell Kendall, look, you got to take these shots, man.
You know who they will have if they are fortunate to keep advancing. It is the battering ram of Blue Bloods, but Baylor is the defending national champion. Does that matter that it could be North Carolina or it could be others along the way? If they get to that point, that's good news. They keep winning.
I think it's good news that they keep winning, Smokey, but I also think it's nice just to play those teams and say, look, Baylor wants to eventually get to a place where they're thought of like Duke was thought of in the 90s, where, Duke wasn't necessarily a national power, although they had some success beforehand in the 70s and 60s, but it took a while to build, or that UCLA, under Wooden really built up, but it took them a minute, or that KU up until 88 had some great history with Will Chamberlain, but that's really where it turned around with Roy and Bill Self and Larry Brown winning that title, and that's where Baylor wants to be. And as Ric Flair says, you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. And so, it's cool to beat St. Mary's, it's cool to beat Indiana, you beat the guys in front of you, but it would be kind of cool to say North Carolina, get out of town, UCLA, LA's cool, but you're not that good compared to what you should have been. I think they are good, but you can say that. And then tell Kentucky, Oscar Tshiebwe's pretty nice, but we got James Akenjo, and we prefer him at the point to Ty Washington. Now Baylor will have to prove that on the court, but a lot of smack you can talk if Baylor goes through that region.
Kendall, they've obviously already had a pretty successful year. I mean, a share of the Big 12 regular season, won a bunch of games, and did it all through a lot of adversity. In terms of the tournament, what do you see as kind of like the baseline to consider the postseason a success as well?
It's a great question, Craig, and I think this is the ultimate, kind of how do you feel? I wouldn't blame anybody if they said, you know what, it's hard to be a 1 seed. Not often do you have 2 freshmen who could be lottery picks, senior and Matt Meyer, who was thought of as a possible first-round pick coming in. first team All Big 12 player in James Akinjo. And by the way, I think Adam Flagler is a better college player than all of them. You have a roster like that, even with the injuries, you can make the case that, look, if you don't make the Elite Eight, it's kind of a disappointing season. I don't view it that way. I think winning the Big 12, doing what you did, it will always be thought of pretty fondly. But you don't get a lot of opportunities where everything still comes together, even with the injuries. So I think it will be viewed kind of disappointingly if they lose that second game. It'll happen. KU's had it happen a lot of times. North Carolina's had it happen to them. It happens when you get to a stage like this where you just can't avoid losses like that. But I think if they have that second round loss, it'll always be more of a what-if season. I think if they lose a tough game to UCLA or Kentucky, it'll be okay, we lost to a good team on a good day with injuries. And if you make the Final Four, it's not going to be viewed as last season because winning the title, that's special, the first title for Baylor. But I think Final Four is really oh my God, what a fantastic season. You can argue this is a better coaching job than last year with the injuries. But I think that second weekend is what you got to get to feel like there isn't some what did we leave behind kind of feeling. That's tough, but that's the nature of the tournament. KU's had a lot of seasons like that. Baylor doesn't want to have one like that with the crew they have this year.
By the way, Kendall, in some of the chat room and also the text line, people who enjoy your articles, but what they also love is how you insert video below whatever points or whatever you're writing about, which is I see that more and more. I've seen a couple like C.J. Moore, The Athletic. I've seen him do that as well. Is that easy to do? I'm sure it is with technology, which, of course, is out of my range.
It's not too tough to just gather the videos. What's a lot easier now is they're shouting the flight info above, so hopefully that audio is not too bad for y'all. But what's not too tough now is a lot of people just upload the games to YouTube. College basketball is cool because they don't take the content down like Major League Baseball does. So really easy to get them, and then it just takes a little bit to figure out the interface. But no, that's not too challenging. Like, from the outside to me, I'm sure for, you Smokey and you Craig, and when Paul's around, it's probably really easy for y'all to gather audio and for Armstrong to gather audio. But for me, if I sat behind the desk for a day, I'd be like, oh my God, how do we play this down? How do we make sure the interview's here? If I got the wrong guy on hold. So I think it's one of those deals that once you can do it, it feels pretty easy to do. But before you can do it, it's like, oh my God, how do you get into this or know what to do?
Kendall, as far as the rest of the Big 12 goes, I mean, obviously a pretty solid field numbers-wise, but is there a certain team, the way they're playing right now, or perhaps the path that they have that you have going pretty deep?
So I have KU going pretty far, Greg. I think Remy Martin coming back shows that KU can hit their ceiling, which preseason I think was legitimately a top 5 team. And as much as I hate on Texas all the time, and I hate to say it, I'm kind of talking myself into Texas can make the second weekend. Purdue's looked a little shaky down the stretch. Texas has some athleticism that you don't often see in the Big Ten. Jaden Ivey's a good player, but with how that staff can kind of scout things out with how good that staff is with Chris Beard and company. And then Texas's defense is pretty unique for Purdue to face. I'm kind of talking myself into Texas, but maybe that's just I've hated on them so much over the last 2 years that I no longer have the same hate I once did. So I don't know, but I'm kind of looking at Texas as a sleeper team if I were in my bracket to say Purdue might be a little overvalued, but now watch Purdue win the title. But I think Texas is that team that's undervalued relative to bracket expectations.
Thank you, Kendall. Be careful on the flight. We'll see you tomorrow in Fort Worth. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it, fellas. Thanks.
Kendall Kaut, Sikkim365.com basketball writer and also an analyst on this show as well. And again, it's all things that like the younger generation, and not just younger generation, that reading an article, a regular column or an article, and then right below a certain point about who is doing this or what player does this or what they're not doing well, and then there's a video clip that kind of explains it with arrows and all that. That's so above my mental ability about technology, but I love it. I absolutely love it. It allows me to read the article and understand it better. And I know that C.J. Moore, The Athletic, has done that. I know others have, but Kendall has done that as well. When we come back 5:40, we'll update you on a couple of different notes when it comes to the NFL. The NCAA tournament, the second day of the first 4, will tip off in about a minute between Wright State and also Bryant. That and more. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Ted Teague, who listens to us all the time. We appreciate Ted, the general manager. In fact, he heard us talking about some of the construction and sent Craig a note about Bagby Avenue, which is over where he lives, and over near the dealership, about the timeline of what's coming up next with construction. But he's also the general manager at Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, because he understands the car business, and so does that entire company. Right now, shop for power, performance, and reliability with the 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Quad Cab. Total values of $8,500. or get $3,000 in bonus cash and 2.9% financing for 72 months. First responders, $500 extra. Also, the 2022 Wagoneer Series 2 and 3. You see some of these the cars, they're showing them on television quite a bit because they are red hot. Series 2 and 3, 2.9% for 72 months, plus $1,500 in bonus cash and first responders, again, an additional $500. Check out the Jeep Grand Cherokee L. Wagoneer, some of the newest styles, the Jeep Grand Cherokee L and the Wagoneer Series 2 and 3, some of the newest styles, dependability, toughness, and, of course, perfect for you and the family. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler, Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
All right, this last segment. Ball is out today, no top 5. We will broadcast tomorrow, 3 to 6, from Railhead Smokehouse Barbecue. I talked to the owner today, Charlie Guerin. He's not going to be there tomorrow, but he'll be there Saturday if Baylor's there, and we'll do a pregame show, postgame show. We just don't know when because we don't know the tip time if Baylor takes care of business and at either North Carolina and Marquette. Earlier today, Baylor met with the media, as did Marquette, North Carolina, and others, and, of course, Norfolk State. And this is Scott Drew when he was asked about the leadership from a guy that was critical down the stretch for them last year in the national championship run, and Adam Flagler.
Yeah, Adam's one of those guys that when he's done playing basketball, he wants to be a pediatrician, and then normally you don't want to be a pediatrician unless you really care for other people. So anytime you have an experienced player, a leader that cares that much about his teammates, you know they're going to make a great leader. And we have the ultimate faith in Adam, and know that he always has the team's best interest at heart. And so it's easy to hear and listen to the advice he gives other players and the thoughts he has for us as a staff. And he's somebody that has battled injuries as well. And I know LJ Cryer will not be available this weekend, so it's more even more onus on him and James and Dale to make sure that they're at their best.
So that's, again, on Adam Flagler. And in the middle of that, you heard him that LJ Cryer is out this weekend. And the breaking news would be if he plays again, not just this weekend he's not going to, but if he plays if they get to the second weekend or third. So also some NFL news. Craig?
Yeah, Von Miller has announced where he is going to be playing next year. And obviously the Cowboys were a heavy topic this week with Von Miller, but there were other teams interested. And Armstrong, do you have that? Here was Von Miller just a few moments ago on Instagram.
It's been crazy, man. Crazy 4 hours. Going back and forth, man. A lot of things that I love in L.A., but I just wanted to let you know I'm coming to Buffalo. Bills Mafia, what's good? Is 40 open?
Wow, that is, Buffalo, of course, knocking on the door. They got the quarterback. They're really, really good. They've been good for a couple of years. Von Miller's leadership, what they are, and, I think the Rams thought he was going to come back. I heard some scuttle today. Some of the Cowboys reporters or those who are cheerleaders, this is when we know Granny Gregory. We even mentioned it yesterday. Never. It was probably Rams or Bills, and he picked Buffalo.
Yeah, he picks Buffalo, and you thought that the Texas connection with the Cowboys maybe puts them in the front runner spot, but he's a guy who won a Super Bowl MVP years ago, and then obviously won a Super Bowl again this year. He's won 2 with 2 different teams in the AFC and the NFC. So he's not one of those guys that's ring chasing necessarily at this point, and maybe that played into the fact that rather than going back to the Rams, he feels like, he's got the flexibility and the money and the achievements to kind of just have a freer choice than maybe some guys otherwise at his age would. So, and I'm not saying that like he's going to some bad team either. He's going to a contender. He's going to an absolute contender. So he's still chasing rings. He's just doing it in a different spot than the other 2 spots he's been in where he's gone all the way to a Super Bowl. So, yeah, if he can carry that magic over to Buffalo with what they've got building right now, then, maybe that helps to put them over the top of a Kansas City or the likes of those teams the next time around. But, yeah, that's a tremendous pickup for the Bills, and the numbers are out. And, for a guy that people talk about being, in probably the twilight phase of his career, somewhat, 6 years, $120 million. Now, of course,
a lot of it's funny money.
Yeah, it's a lot of funny money, but that is what the initial contract terms are: is 6 years, $120 million, and obviously he's probably not going to play there for 6 years or make all of $120 million. So we'll see further details, but still, that's a big payday to a guy who's already had some. And you got to be ecstatic if you're a Buffalo fan. You got to also be disappointed if you were some of the other teams that were in the mix. But if you're a Cowboys fan, that's a brutal.
Yeah, because he's from Dallas. He's from DeSoto High School. Yeah. And played at A&M, of course, as well. And the 6 years, $120, I don't even look at that. We'll see what the guaranteed money is, how much up front, et cetera. It could be basically almost a 2-year deal. But think about Von Miller's legacy. He's a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. Wins a Super Bowl at Denver, goes to the Rams, they win it again, and if he can help push Buffalo over the top, and it's going to need more than that, but if he can be a part of that, in Buffalo, where they had 4 consecutive losses with those great teams under Marv Levy, Denver's got incredible fans, and of course, Buffalo, their fans are among the best ever, the Browns fans. And speaking of that, Armstrong, do you have I don't know if you have that I sent you about Baker Mayfield.
Got to say, Von Miller went and experienced the cold in Denver and then got to, be in sunny L.A., although, not there for a real long time in comparison to his Broncos career. But, yeah, he must not be adverse to the cold. But then again, if you sign a 6-year, $120 million contract, nobody hates cold weather more than I do. And I'd be out there with no Under Armour on and just straight up whatever you wanted me to play in for 6 years, $120 million.
And also, it does appear as if there could be a timeline here involving Deshaun Watson, who are the teams, including New Orleans, Atlanta, who's jumped into it. Of course, Carolina is also an opportunity there. And we had heard Cleveland, but it's weird because Baker Mayfield last night put up a weird note. And here it is. We'll go into that. You go back to you, Craig.
I just wanted to mention real quick another name the Cowboys, just our conversations and fans online or whatever. Chandler Jones also signing elsewhere today.
The Raiders, right?
Yeah, he signed with the Las Vegas Raiders and actually chose them over the Bills. So the Bills won regardless. And the Cowboys, that was another guy that they were, perhaps targeting that's off the board now. So
okay, I'm glad you mentioned him. Yeah, and so the Raiders get him, and then. This late last night, not late, I just happened to see it. Baker Mayfield, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but if you read it, this is almost like a swan song, I'm leaving, and of course he's still a part of the Browns. And memories shared growing in the process. I've given everything I had, God's plan, etc. Go to the next page, Armstrong, if you don't mind, if it's there. And then he's like, again, I've given this everything I have, want to say thank you. Mentions his wife, Emily. Well,
basically what he's saying goodbye before there's an official goodbye, because I read it last night.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of wonderment going on right now in terms of what actually is going on with Cleveland. And then you had Chris Mortensen reporting on ESPN at some point, I believe, earlier today, or at least a quote was attributed to him on ESPN earlier today, saying that the Browns want an adult at quarterback. I don't know if you've seen that quote going around.
Yeah.
So
that's a little bit. That's uncomfortable.
That's So I think that came out, and then just all the other talk that's going on, and then they're courting Deshaun Watson and in the mix for him. And so, if you're Baker Mayfield, I think you kind of see the writing on the wall, and you're probably just trying to get ahead of it and try to, basically put on a good face and, put yourself out there for a new partner potentially, because somebody will obviously be interested in him. There's not that many great quarterbacks out there, and he's not great himself, but he's better than some of the other schlubs we've seen rolled out there over the years. So I'm sure some team will be interested. But just kind of a very awkward, it looks like ending. It's not official, but it sure as heck looks like an ending for Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. But that definitely felt like a goodbye letter to the Browns fans last night.
It did. It seemed, if it's not, then I don't know. It's very awkward. Which Wright State leads Bryant 12-7, 7 minutes into the first half in that game. That's one of the first 4. The winner will get, what did I say earlier? Get Alabama, whoever wins. I'm sorry. They get Arizona, whoever wins that game. And, of course, there's another one later on tonight. All right, tomorrow, Armstrong, would you put up the graphic for Railhead? And I still don't know if this was Jack or Colt or somebody that was just a member on the site Tomorrow, 3 to 6, Railhead Smokehouse Barbecue in Fort Worth off Montgomery Street. It is less than a mile from Dickies Arena, and we're going to be there during the show. We'll have, if Baylor takes care of business, we'll have a player join us on the show along with analysts who are there to discuss that and hopefully get your feedback as well. Tomorrow, again, 3 to 6 in Fort Worth at Railhead Smokehouse Barbecue. I cannot tell you how great the owner has been in Charlie, Guerin. Now, Armstrong will be there tomorrow. Jack will be there tomorrow. Paul, we hope, will be there tomorrow. And Craig and I will see you there tomorrow along with a lot of Baylor fans at Dickies Arena and hopefully at the restaurant. Thank you very much to everybody who's been a part of the chat room, those of you on the text line today, and then tomorrow we hope to be able to open the text line up and opinions following Baylor, Norfolk State, and other games that are going on when they all tip off at 11:37 or whatever it is Central Time. For Craig Smoak, Armstrong, Sims, we'll see you tomorrow in Fort Worth. I'm David Smoak. Good night, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.